All right. We are live. Good to see everybody. Short stories by Cade, Pet Detectives, Adventures, Pennsylvania Plowboy, loyal viewers. Good to see everybody. Happy Sunday. It's just like, this doesn't make a difference in the sound, but my OCD goes crazy when it's off center. So happy Sunday to everybody. We're going to be doing something new. We're trying a lot of new stuff. So what we're going to do, I'll kind of explain it preemptively here since we haven't done it before. The Revenant, in this case, we won't maybe be always able to do this because I don't know, what movies we're going to cover going forward. So it might not always be free to play. But in this case, The Revenant is free on YouTube. So I don't really know what the legalities of me even linking it are, with YouTube and everything. So if you YouTube The Revenant, it pops right up. You can watch along. Give me a minute or two to explain it, and then we'll just jump right into it. So what we're going to do is just watch it all the way through. I'm not going to pause it. That way you don't have to sit there and pause it with me. We're just going to run all the way through it. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk a little history. I'm not here to just pick the movie apart entirely. There's lots of good stuff about it. Lots of stuff that they captured kind of in the totality, like the costumes and the kind of, oh, let me turn this light off real quick. That's another thing. Always, oh, sorry, that turned off the wrong light. Behind the scenes stuff. See, this is why I didn't want to jump right into it. Got a couple things I knew I forgot. Anyways, they did some things that were really good. The costumes were really good. The overall ambiance, the kind of capturing the tension, covering the tribes. The tribes are the actual tribes that they're dealing with. The French, I thought they did a good job of covering that. And the overarching gist of Glass's story, they captured. But there's some stuff they added and stuff they twisted that is just like, there was no need for it. In my view, it really took away from the story, changed the whole tenor of the story. And yeah, and that's another thing for tonight. That's my view. Hop in the chat. Let me know what you think. And is there anything else I'm forgetting? I don't think so. I don't have a list of all the characters in front of me. Should be able to kind of surmise that though. And yeah, other than that, let me know if you've even seen it before in the chat. And I'm pulling it up right now. And we should be good to go. Everybody ready? All right, here. In 3, 2, 1. I should be. I'm like NASA, like my countdowns are always messed up. I have to look around my screen to my larger screen. 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right. Very professional. Counting down. There's 20th Century Fox. Thanks so much to them for bringing it to us. Let me see if I can like adjust this a little more so I don't look like I'm looking away. Still rolling through the pre-production. Have you seen this before? Let me know in the chat. Man in the Wilderness, 1971. Cool. That's we're going to add that to the list. Also, if you have any movies that you want to suggest, let me know. We're going to add them to a long list because I think this is a fun idea. We're just hanging out, just kind of, shooting the breeze. Okay, we are officially starting. We open with DiCaprio. He's playing Hugh Glass. He's having a dream. He's having a bad little dream here. He's remembering being with his wife and his son. He did have a Pawnee wife. He never had a son. Comancheros, we'll definitely put that on there. He never had a son, though. And so he starts having all these like PTSD flashback dreams that are completely unnecessary in the movie. Really, in Hugh Glass's own autobiography, he was allegedly a pirate to begin with, a sailor who turned pirate when he was captured by John Lafitte. I have trouble saying that name for some reason. But then he jumped from the ship and swam to shore in Texas and then made his way north from Texas. So he started his mountain man life as kind of a fugitive of sorts, a fugitive from the tribes. He got kidnapped by the tribes, escaped from the tribes, started his career as a mountain man. It wasn't this, I had a kid with the Pawnee lady and then something terrible happened. The village got raided and she passed away, and then I have a son that I have to take care of by myself. Not that. He was just out here by himself at this point, and he was a good mountain man. In this, he's out hunting and kind of misses his watch, right? Him and his son are out hunting. They shoot this elk, and they kind of drop their job as being on guard against attacks. But the overall tenor of this, like everyone having to be on guard all the time against attacks from the native tribes, absolutely real. And the kind of tension that you feel as they, lead up to this is absolutely real. Oh, also, if you haven't seen this, obviously going to be a lot of major spoilers here. So if you haven't seen this yet, watch the movie first. Okay, and someone I didn't realize how long it takes them to pan up this creek, but they're really building the drama here. So they pan up the creek, and we come on to Glass and his fake son out hunting. Where is he at? Oh, it's a good question. So they're really showing these flooded woods, right? But this actually happened in South Dakota. So there were some woods, but not these. This all happened in the spring, maybe midsummer. So there weren't flooded woods. It was kind of out in this open spot on the prairie. And really, this is kind of an amalgamation, a word I'll probably use several times tonight, of events that happened, leading up to this. So this is kind of the sandbar fight. We've covered that in an episode. I'll link that in the description. But this is where they got ambushed by the Arikara. In real life, they weren't ambushed because someone was out hunting. Several of the trappers had camped next to an Arikara village, and some of their guys went into the village, tried to trade some trinkets for stuff from their women. Obviously, it didn't work out well. Those guys got, knocked off, and then they attacked the trappers' village, and that became this huge fight. It's a seminal moment in frontier history, and didn't unfold like this. But I'm not an overly cynical movie critic, right? I understand you have to kind of meld things together just out of time and out of entertainment value. But they're doing a good job of at least showing the kind of totality of how the attack unfolded. But a big point from me, right? This is kind of my big take on the movie. They're panning out to Tom Hardy's character. It's John Fitzgerald, another guy. He's the real guy. That's the real character who was involved in the whole Hugh Glass incident as we move forward here. And he's peeing, and then they zoom out from there. They really portray this guy as the villain. The entire time we move forward here, he's kind of the a-hole, right? And he's portrayed as selfish and egotistical and solipsistic. He's just always kind of out for himself and only cares about the pelts and the money they can make. And maybe in real life, that was kind of true. He's a pretty pragmatic guy. But even in this movie, to me, he's a guy who's had let's say a long week at work. You ever had like a long week at work and you just want to go home and have a beer? And on Friday afternoon, there's an accident at the factory or whatever, right? And then they withhold your paycheck. That's kind of what happens here. This attack happens, and then they're withholding his paycheck because he can't take the beaver pelts with him, so he can't get paid. And then this other guy gets attacked by a bear. So then he's like, oh, great, this is going to take even longer. And everything that they suggest that all the other trappers want to do ends up costing him more time. And it's just more days, more hours until he can get home and have a beer. So would you be in a great mood? Like everything that everyone suggests goes against what you said, and it would have saved you all time anyways. I'm kind of pro Fitzgerald in this movie. So let me know what you think as we work our way through here. So the attack is underway. It's a good example of this. If they were, loading the boat with the furs, if they were doing something that might have distracted them, especially early in the morning, that's prime time for an attack. And it would have unfolded pretty quickly. It wouldn't have been like battle lines outside of the camp. It would have been guerrilla tactics and a surprise attack. But as this unfolds, there's several other inaccuracies here. So they're seeing what's probably the worst sight that you can see on the frontier is a line of warriors coming towards you up on a ridge, because that's you're going to have a bad time, right? But they start circling up inside the trees. A common tactic. They're a lot more disoriented here than you would think experienced frontiersmen would be in real life, but the tactic remains. You're circling up. Um, they're looking up in the trees, right? And as this unfolds, there's a couple warriors hidden in the trees. That's just made up Hollywood stuff. They wouldn't hide in the trees. I don't know how they would get up there anyways. But then you're putting yourself in a really bad position because one attack and you're kind of just stuck up there to get fired upon. So that wasn't real. One guy here loses his mind and runs out in the open and gets cut down. And then the whole next couple of minutes here, we got to hear him screaming and crying. And it's just like, bro, like, sorry, like that's your bad, man. We're not that guy. He's done for, right? And in my mind, if I'm there, it's just like, listen, not trying to be a jerk, but it's like you ran out in the open. It's your one job. Don't run in the open. And then we got to hear him just carrying on for the rest of this. Now there's the full attack here. The Arikara are sweeping into the camp. They show several guys getting cut down. There was heavy losses a lot of times from native forces attacking camps because at least in the initial charge, they're going against guys that are pretty experienced shots. There's several of them. So it was a dangerous business for them as well. But now everyone's trying to retreat. Glass is back at the camp. His fake son is back at the camp. And most everybody wants to leave the furs and get on the boat, right? Understandable. Not our boy Fitzgerald. He's a ardent capitalist. He's screaming to everyone to take the furs with him. Now Glass is getting choked out by an Arikara with a bow. Boom, another guy comes, clubs him in the head. The Arikara is done. Glass is like, I don't know, man, he's having a bad day, right? Like, I feel like if Glass saw this movie, he'd be like, I didn't do this stuff. They're really kind of portraying him as maybe not the best fighter. Like, he's putting in the effort. He's not afraid, but he's not that effective in this fight. He finds one of the Indians and one of the natives in the tree, shoots him, but the guy probably wasn't there anyways. And this guy, random guy, trying to club him in the head. It's like, you got to pick your shots, right? He's trying to club him in the head. He gets shot in the eye with an arrow. It's like, you just got to move out to the boat, buddy. Our Arikara friend here, one of the chiefs, he's riding along. He's shooting out. He's giving commands. He's shot, knocked down. He's kicked. Fitzgerald, he's back in the fight, screaming, let's take the pelts. Let's take the pelts. These guys are just being a bunch of wusses. They leave the pelts. Fitzgerald takes on an Arikara attack with an armful of pelts. Absolute Chad. Oh, a couple knife strikes and Fitzgerald is out of there. But this is a bad situation that happened a lot. And this is a fair representation of the sandbar fight. It's called the sandbar fight because it was a pretty prolonged fight where they hid behind this sandbar and fought their Arikara for a while before they were even able to get to the boats. And then dude over here, if you've seen this movie, he's swigging a bottle of whiskey. He shoots what I'm guessing is their best horse because he doesn't want it to get into the Arikara hands. But it's like he's going to turn that on him. He's going to turn that weapon on himself here in a second. So it's just like, you had to take our best horse out, you know? Like, I don't know. Seemed like a needless last act. But I digress. So we got another trapper. This is just where you're seeing, you know, it sucks to suck. You're seeing a lot of guys getting mowed down on their way. A couple arrows in the back there. Big lesson here is just jump into the shallow waters. What are these guys doing jumping into the deep waters? They're trapped. So our friend here, this is I think the first prominent view we have of Jim Bridger. He's the 15-year-old in this. And in this, he's played as a nervous young teenager because that's what he was at the time. He really was 15 when all this happened. And he went on to be a Mount Rushmore mountain man. Like, he would easily be in anyone's top 5. Could be legitimately at number 1 as the best mountain man of all time. But this is how he got his start. He survived the sandbar attack. He was one of the guys, as we'll see, that stayed to help Glass. And he just that's a hell of a rookie season, right? So now these guys make it to the boat. Everybody's jumping on the boat. One guy is jumping on the boat from the side closest to the beach. And it's just like, I watched some of this last night, and it's like, when you just swim to the other, I know it's easier said than done, but wouldn't you just swim to the other side of the boat and then jump on? Like, I don't know, 2020 hindsight. So it sweeps out, and this is a pretty accurate view of what you would see is this burned out camp. Also, though, it's not completely burned out. You have the natives salvaging all the furs that they can, all the tools and animals that they can, because this is not just a territorial raid, and this is a critical point with a lot of raiding throughout the 19th century. It was an economic uh, means. There was economic motives behind it. So they're capturing all the furs because they're going to sell those as well. So now we've got them kind of wandering. We've got the Arikara kind of wandering around the camp, a little bit of like a celebratory locker room feel here, but they're hurting. They've lost quite a few guys. Didn't get everything here for cheap, right? So it says here they're talking about how they're going to take the horses to the French. They're going to trade them. And they like I said, this movie does a good job of portraying the French later. We'll see how the French traders got to interact with the native tribes. So now we go back to our boys here. The captain here is actually portrayed as, I believe it's William Henry. I might have that first name wrong. When actually it was Ashley. It was Captain. I might have these names mixed up, right? I've had so many names in my head this week, but Captain, maybe William Ashley, but Captain Ashley was the one actually there. They were both co-owners of the Henry Ashley Fur Company. And this, you've ever seen that famous ad where it's like the Shackleton ad of its time, where they say, we need 100 brave men to venture upstream and likelihood of death very high. That was a real ad, and these guys really signed up for it. So, that's good advertising. All right, so they're on the boat here. They're having this conversation about, what do we do? Are we going to stay on the boat, or are we going to get off the boat and go to shore and ditch our furs? And of course, Glass, this didn't happen in real life. Like this was kind of a communal decision, but Glass is saying, oh, we got to go to shore and we got to ditch the pelts and we got to make sure my fake son is safe. And Fitzgerald is going like, bro, I don't want to ditch all these furs. This is 6 months worth of pay. This is like, let's say today you make, let's say you make 60 grand. This is $30,000. Like this is $30,000 before taxes out the window, right? So he's not super happy about this. Is this not understandable? Like, regardless of what's happening, it's a sizable chunk of change, right? So they're arguing now. It's Fitzgerald and the captain arguing back and forth. The rest of the guys say we should go to shore. He says, no, we shouldn't. And it's, in my view, it's just like, oh yeah, are you more likely to, they're saying, well, we're going to be trapped on the river. And it's like, right, you won't be trapped on the mountains and the forest. Good call. They decide to come to shore, right? They're hauling all the beaver pelts on shore. Fitzgerald is just getting progressively pissed. And then Glass and his fake son over here are just kind of helping haul stuff in. And it's like his son is always just kind of being a problem, right? He's always got this dour look on his face. He's always got a complaint. You're being mean to my daddy. And it's like all the rest of the guys are going to get tired of you pretty quickly. But again, this didn't happen. So it really sucks they portrayed Glass this way, because he was a dude too. He was the man. He was popular amongst his friends. He was pretty popular to get two other guys to stay with him, right? Like they didn't do that just out of financial means. He was a respected guy. All right, so they're stacking the beaver pelts up. So what they're going to do is cache these. CACHE. Took second place in my second grade spelling bee. So, but cache them means they're going to store them up. They're going to find a hole, find a hollowed out log, sometimes find some space in the rocks and stash all their pelts in there. Mark it by some means, cutting in a tree, marking it on a map, both, something like that, and then come back later. And it worked out more often than you would think, but it didn't work out all the time. Animals would get in there, other people would get in there, other trappers, native tribes would get in there and take them. But as we'll see later, what the fur companies did was brand their pelts a lot. So just like cattle, you couldn't sell pelts that had been branded. So that creates a bit of a problem for anyone stealing pelts, and that's a good scene later on. So we'll cover that a little bit as we go. Okay, now they're chilling on the shore, and Glass is like cleaning his rifle. Maybe I'll start calling him DiCaprio, because this isn't what Glass actually did. But so DiCaprio and let me just call him Glass. Glass and his boy over there. He's like cleaning his rifle, and Fitzgerald's just like kind of ranting, going off, right? And he's being a tad less than PC, let's say that. Um, but it's like, well, this never happened, right? So kind of who cares, right? He didn't say this stuff. This is all just made up to make Fitzgerald look like a jerk. And he keeps pressing the issue, bullying Glass's son. And he's in this movie. He's really mad because there was a ambush of trappers by a Pawnee tribe. That's who Boone or who Glass is allied with. That's who his fake son here would be, half Pawnee. So he's going on and on and on in this diatribe about like, we can't trust you, we can't trust your kid. Never happened. They're just bad mouthing our boy here. Henry's so finally the boss says, "All right, boys, like we got to chill out for a second. OSHA's not going to approve of having all these, guns being pointed at each other." So they're having an argument, moment of tension. Really, I think Tom Hardy does a better job in this movie than DiCaprio does. He's such an intense character. You know, he's given this bent he has to play, this kind of evil bent, and he just nails it. He's so intense all the way through. And I think you would meet a lot of mountain men like this. Like these weren't necessarily genteel guys. They weren't necessarily guys that you or I would like hang out with and just have a beer and be cool. They probably said like a lot of crazy. Um, so okay, Glass is talking to his fake son, saying, "Hey man, you got to chill out. Don't be talking to this guy anymore. You're causing me more problems. Just take it easy. All right, don't make waves." Now Glass is walking off. He really this his kid just stares a lot, right? It's like he just gives this dramatic stare a lot. Maybe this is where the Gen Z stare came from. It's just like, all right, you're overselling it here. All right, so they're kind of on the shores of the river. Fitzgerald says, "Smart." I don't know if I can quote that, but smart SOBs, right? And it's like, again, yeah, we get it, man. We get it. Everybody keeps pulling this guy into bad situations. Now they show him pull this skull cap off. Fitzgerald pulls his skull cap off and reveals that he's been scalped. Not true in real life as far as Fitzgerald being scalped, but real in real life. Several guys on the frontier survived scalping and would walk around with some kind of head covering all the time. Jedediah Smith was actually scalped by a bear, and they kind of pieced some of it back on there like a Wayne Newton toupee, but he would wear this wrap around his head and kind of comb his hair over so you couldn't see it quite as much. But it was a real thing, and you would see guys, have some weird hat or they would just rock it. Wasn't really a point of pride, but it was like, you're not going to stop the show to ask him what happened. All right, so we're with Glass and his boy, and we're talking at night here. Just trying to like fall asleep. His boy's upset again for whatever reason. Like, frankly, who cares, right? Because he's not even a real dude. Oh, yeah. He's like, Glass has to remind him, like, "You're my son. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much." It's like a T-ball speech in the middle of the movie. Thought he was just having a bad hair day in the chat here. Yeah. And I mean, technically he was, right? Like, how much more of a bad hair day are you going to have than losing it? It's always one of those guys in the movie. We have watched the movie several times from Nancy Jones. There's always one of those guys in the movie that panics, but short stories by Kate. I know. It's always some guy, some wuss that kind of freaks out. And you're just like, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. Actions have consequences. I just want to say, when you think your life is going down the tubes, just be thankful you weren't mauled by a grizzly. As wiser words have never been spoken. Also, one point here, as you'll see them, they're walking through the woods now. And so they're hiking on land. Nobody's super happy, but they'll refer to the tribe that attacked them as the Ree, and it's the Arikara, but that's kind of the colloquial mountain man name for them because they were called Arika Ree, and then it just kind of gets shortened to Ree. There's only so much time in the day. So they're hiking through the rain, and they do a good job in the movie of showing these situations that mountain men would have been. This would be a pretty regular day in the office. Historically romantic. What's up? Fax Colden. A lot of money to lose. Pet detectives, a lot of money to lose, but no good to you if you're dead. I agree. I agree. Yeah. So like that's where Fitzgerald gets a little carried away here. I'm just saying you can understand the guy's frustration, right? They really cast him as a victim here, and it's just like, well, everybody keeps pissing on his parade, you know. So Fitzgerald's given himself a haircut here, which is never like a sign of great mental health, but you know, you got to do something. They really did a fantastic job too of the cinematography here. They went all over the world, Argentina, the Pacific Northwest. Surprisingly, I don't think they went to North or South Dakota, but those places don't lend themselves super well to cinematography. So this is something I'm willing to cut them a break on because you don't want to lose the drama of a story in a historical fiction movie to being overly accurate, which is, you know, a controversial thing, but I think the best history movies do that. We talked about Braveheart before. Um, the Patriots a little controversial, but I think it's an example. It was a very popular movie, you know, but they did a good job of not being so obsessive in their accuracy that they lost the drama of the story. And also, you know, Glass is rocking some cool outfits here. He's got this like fur hood, maybe some kind of mink fur, but he pulls it off and, you know, things are about to go bad. So this is the bear hunt. He's out hunting. It's kind of his job in this movie. Glass did that in real life too. He was one of the more experienced guys, so he would often be assigned or volunteer to go hunt. Because trapping and hunting are obviously two different things. You can trap a lot of beaver and have no deer meat to eat. They were fond of beaver tail, but beaver meat not super popular, kind of swampy and gamey by their accounts. But beaver tail, they had a lot of great things to say about it. They said like you could roast it up and it was really good. But here comes the bear. Bear charges them. This is a pretty accurate representation of how the bear attack occurred through Glass's own accounts. And it's like, well, I mean, does a pretty good job. What are you going to do? You got to take some swings, right? You got to get your shots in. Feel like he could work the nose a little bit more, but the bear goes to the head and then grabs him by like the butt, that's got to suck. And then from here, the bear's raking his back. He's screaming, throwing a fit. This is how his son acts all the time. And this guy is like, yeah, I get why this guy's upset. He's getting attacked by a bear, but his kid. All right, now he's trying to like fake being dead, that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do with a grizzly, right? Like you got to fight back. But I think by now he knows he's not going to win. Bear's slobbering all over him. Bear steps on his head. This is a bad work day. But you know, like how many times have people been attacked by a bear on a boat, right? Stay on the river. This doesn't happen. All right, the bear's giving him another couple shots. It's very much like the Undertaker, like just lifting him up off the mat and slamming him down. Okay, bear takes off. If you see two bear cubs, like I'm just gonna bolt. Me running is probably not gonna do any good, but that's not good, right? That's like the worst thing you can see in the woods is two grizzly bear cubs. This attack scene, from historically romantic, this attack scene is absolutely nuts. Saw it in the theater, and people were losing their minds. Yeah, I saw this in the theater. I think the day it opened, and I was like expecting it to be pretty brutal, and it was even worse than I thought because it just keeps going. We're going to see right now. You think, okay, it's over. He's going to get away. Let's see what happens next. Let's see how he survives. And the bear is just like, no, that's round one. He's trying to crawl. He probably just should have waited a little bit longer, huh? Like if you're going to play dead, you got to commit to the bit. But he starts crawling. He tries to get his rifle. This is another inaccuracy. He didn't crawl back to his rifle and kill the bear himself. The attack just continued until some of the other guys came and shot the bear and the cubs because they're just like, we're not leaving any chances here, which is unfortunate, you know. But would I have done it? Not saying yes, not saying no, but okay. So he's getting ready for round two. Bear's coming back. He's like, I got one shot. Just like 8 Mile. I got one shot here. I got to make it. Boom. It fails. Shoots the bear in the head. Basically does nothing. This bear's going through his throat now. It would have been better to just lay there. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. Oh, all right. Well, lucky I don't have a bear attacking me right now. Oh, a vicious shot to the back. The bear is just grabbing him by the belt and like flinging him all around. Then it stops and sniffs him, puts all his weight on him. Super creepy. Imagine a bear standing on you. You can't move. It's probably busting a couple of ribs here. And he just has to like lay there. Bear flips him over. If it's brown, lay down. What's the rule on rolling over though? Bear's licking his face. A little creepy, a little invasive. Definitely the creepiest part of the attack. Now he's laying there, barely breathing. They can't really show this that well in the movie, but the accounts, the written accounts of Glass after the attack are even worse than this. Like they say you can see him breathing. There's an aperture in his throat is how they describe it. So if you've ever seen like the old Don't Smoke commercials where the lady has the hole in her throat, like that, but like, fresh and done by a grizzly and not a surgeon. So he's moving around a little bit again. Bear comes back. He stabs it a couple of times. I don't think he got a chance to do that in real life. I bet Glass would like this part if they showed this part of the movie to him. He'd be like, yeah, I'll take that. Bear falls on him. I believe that did happen, which is like, I believe, what do we say, 500, 800-pound animal? It'd be like a steer falling on you. It sucks. A steer with claws. So he's at the bottom of the ravine now. Let's see. Do they come? They'll come. His friends come and find him in this. Yeah. His friends, super helpful, come and find him when he's stuck under the grizzly. Like I said, in real life, the other trappers really shot the bear. Checking the chat real quick. Thank y'all so much for showing up. This is fun. His friends show up. It'd be really funny to say, like, what happened? Are you okay? But time and a place for everything, right? Not now, not here. So they do. Okay. So when they are able to get to Glass, this is all real. He's in terrible shape, bleeding everywhere. They're able to show the throat a little bit there. He's bleeding out of the mouth, just about everywhere. Everyone thinks, for all intents and purposes, this is palliative care, right? Like, this guy is done. There's no way you're going to make it out of this, but it's kind of our duty to at least make him as comfortable as we can. I'm watching it with captions on, and it's almost worse because it just says like continues wheezing in parentheses, and it's like, oh, it's even more visceral. All right, so it shows the guys hiking out. We're gonna have to carry him out. Fitzgerald is visibly pissed off, which is like, all right, man, like maybe wait a couple minutes, but yeah, I get it. Again, they're sewing them up. There's lots of accounts of guys having to give stitches. Obviously, they're not doctors, and they're having to use horse hairs a lot of times, like the hairs that come from a horse's tail, whatever's available. So it's not sterilized either. And it's just this like terrible hesitating process where they'll put like one or two through, and then the guy will say like, you got to keep going. And he'll have to tell them like, okay, I'm good. And they'll do a couple more. And then the guy will be like, okay, it hurts too much. We got to stop. And then they'll put a couple more through, and the guy's too grossed out and they got to stop again. It's just like, it's a horrible job. I mean, I get going out there once, but how these guys returned or did this for 10, 20, 30 years is beyond me. I would have bet the ranch he was done for from Pet Detectives. Absolutely. Like, everyone thought this was a done deal, and the wounds they show are pretty accurate. His like fake son is whispering to him that you'll be okay. Da 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 da. Now he's a tough guy, right? So they're back at the camp now. Oh no, they cut to the Arikara going to the French camp. And this is pretty accurate representation of their dress and their, battle paint and everything. They're going directly to the French camp. It would be a couple days travel for them, but they pull up on the French camp, and this is something that's, I think, wildly underplayed in frontier history is the involvement of the French. It's, more so studied and understood in Canada, but they were out on the far reaches of the frontier decades before a lot of other countries, Americans, Spanish, English, were able to get out there. So they were dealing with these tribes for sometimes centuries by the time, yeah, it would be almost centuries by the early 1800s. So these are guys, and by and large, that know how the frontier works. They know how to manipulate the tribes and get the best deal for themselves. They know that by and large, they have superior firepower, so they're not terribly afraid of, getting into a fight with them. And this is the point of the Arikara having branded furs. The French now have gone from saying we'll trade horses and furs and weapons with you to saying we only are interested in the furs. We're not going to trade you any horses. The Arikara are like, what the hell? You told us you would trade us horses. We just lost a bunch of horses in this fight because they didn't get a ton in this fight they showed, right? They got like 2 or 3, the one the guy didn't shoot. They're arguing back and forth now, which would be a common thing. These negotiations would be proposed a couple of weeks in advance, like stop by our camp and bring us, some pelts, some beads, some whatever, and we'll have some good deals on some horses or some weapons for you. And that would often change in the interim. And when you got there, the deal was substantially different. So now there's quite a bit of vitriol being built up between the Arikara chief and the Frenchman. And he's kind of reading him the riot act about how, like, you've been encroaching on our lands and kind of screwing us over with these trade deals for a while. Everything changes and nothing changes, right? So he's saying basically like next time I show up, you better have some horses for me. Frenchmen are like, all right, man, like chill out a little bit. And nothing we can really do. Like we don't have the money right now to afford them. He's saying, we can't do the deal right now. We'll give you 5 horses. So they take them. They're a little pissed off, but you got to take what you can get, right? Now, back to the campers camp, or the campers camp, the trappers camp. Glass is laying over there, wheezing out of his throat. And he knows what they're saying over there. They're like, he knows they're saying, like, this doesn't look good. It's not great. Bridger actually, I think this is true, that Bridger took the claws from the grizzly bear and made a necklace out of them. That was something that was pretty common. It was really something they learned from the natives because it was a way to both show that you had got them the hard way and to use as kind of in their words, a medicine. Like you have the bear medicine now. You have the power of the bear, which is like, yeah, Hugh Glass could really use that right now. And this is really how it happened. He kind of laid over there and was half conscious, and they were like, what are we going to do? And a really cool detail in that scene, they have the skinned carcass of the bear back behind them, which is what they really did. Bear meat was not so, it was not so much the grizzly, more the black bear, but grizzly was very popular and had a ton of fat on it, which was something that was a prized commodity on the frontier. You could get a lot of lean meat. Fat was hard to come by. So bears were a number one target for game. Now they're starting to walk him across the river. They have this stretcher. They're hauling him. It's like hard times. Bad day at the office, right? Fitzgerald the whole time is just like, we should have stayed on the boat. I have to walk around with these idiots now. The whole time, Glass is just wheezing away. And if you're Fitzgerald, you're getting more and more angry with every little wheezy breath, right? So a big point of contention here, I don't know, for me, this is one thing that kind of I thought was an unnecessary add too. They show this is happening in the winter. Like I said, this happened in the late spring or summer. So quite a bit different conditions. The conditions weren't as mountainous either. But I'm willing to meet them in the middle because they do a good job of adding the drama. And there's just a way to convey the difficulty of the story, because it's like, well, we can't show them walking for miles on flat terrain for hours and hours. So we'll replace that intensity with the steepness of mountain slopes and the adversity of snow, right? So they're hauling them up the steep cliff here. They keep dropping them. They have this kind of sled system set up. Again, probably something that really happened. These cases actually happened all the time, and it wouldn't just be bear attacks. It could be native attacks. It could be accidental discharge from a gun. Um, Almost anything. A trap could go off on a guy's foot. Snake bites. Anything else. And it was like there are no doctors around. You just got to wait for your homies to sew you up. So this is a bad situation to be in, and not terribly uncommon for these guys. Though this was the worst that any of them have ever seen. And a lot of these guys in the crew with Glass at this time were relatively young. Glass would have been, I think, the oldest or one of the oldest among them, and one of the most experienced. So adds another layer to their problem and to their fear. They're going, one of our best guys is, you know, uh, disabled at this point. So now I don't know the full. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of to substantiate this, that they actually covered his eyes and pointed a gun at him and debated whether or not they should take him out themselves and do out of mercy, let's say, right? But it was debated, which is, come on, it's understandable. Like they're even talking in pure terms of humanity. Like, can we really let this guy keep suffering? And that eventually boiled down to, I think, a pretty good solution where the guys were offered, two men were offered, gosh, I believe it was a couple $100 a piece to stay with Glass until he expired. They were thinking could be a matter of hours, could be a matter of days, but it was going to be quick. Now, this wasn't just hanging around. They're still in Arikara territory, so it's a super dangerous proposition, which is why it took a good little bit of coaxing to get guys to stay. But this kind of speaks to, I think, Fitzgerald's and Bridger's character. So you have this 15-year-old kid who is, really worried about a guy he looks up to and really kind of could use the money. And Fitzgerald, who there's not a lot of information if he was really in financial dire straits, but he obviously cared enough about Glass to hang around and put himself in real deal danger. If he got caught, if Bridger got caught, they knew it was going to be, at best case, that it would be a quick death, and likely they'd be captured and tortured, especially with the recent attacks between themselves and the Arikara. So it was a very, very, very dangerous proposition for them. Now they're showing Fitzgerald and Henry, who would in actuality be Rose. Isaac, no, not Rose. Isaac Peter. No. So many names floating through my head. I just wrote a long script this afternoon too. But in actuality, he would be Captain Rose of the Henry Rose Fur Company. Okay, so now we're zooming out to another great shot of the frontier at night, just kind of early morning. So Bridger and Fitzgerald have stayed behind, as well as Glass's fake son. And now he's talking to him about what his mom said, and the wind cannot defeat a tree with strong roots. And it's like, bro, he's breathing out of his neck. You know what I mean? Like, let's save the metaphors for later. But he's encouraging him, so that helps. But it didn't really happen. And this whole time, Glass has this like distant, detached look in his eyes, and his kid is just like carrying on about all the things that used to be, giving him flashbacks. And it's like, bro, can you chill out for 5 minutes in this whole movie? But it does show a pretty good representation of what a village would look like post attack. Certainly attacks happened. Shows a little kid running around a light, right? I don't know what YouTube will let me say, but he's like lit up. And it's like kind of dramatizing that a little bit, but which, I mean, like, it happened, but come on, we're squeezing a lot in there. So this shows the US Army attacking a Pawnee village, which happened. This all really happened. But lots of flashbacks here when it's like, I think it'd be way cooler to cut back to like being a pirate or something, right? Just a lot of time eaten up, which I don't think is well served here. Like, none of this actually happened in Glass's life. We have some weird, like, psychedelic stuff too, like a dove flying out of her chest. It's like, man, I got stuff to do today, you know? You don't have to put this weird stuff in my head. And they're just going on and on about trees and roots. And it's like, man, this guy was a pirate. You know what I mean? We don't have to make this like a Greenpeace ad. And they flash to this big pyramid of buffalo skulls, which didn't really happen in the 1830s at this point. 1820s, 1830s is too early for this massive decimation of the buffalo herds. This is kind of a point where they were blowing up larger than usual, some people think, because of the smallpox epidemics that were really just hitting the plains tribes hard. So a lot of people theorize there was less hunting going on, and so more buffalo than you would normally see. The stacks and stacks of buffalo skulls and hides would be kind of after the Civil War, 1870s. But that said, yeah, that was a real thing. They did stack them up, and they killed a lot of buffalo. So they zoom out here, or they zoom back into Fitzgerald. He's leaning up against a tree. He's got his hat off. His scalp is showing, right? And Bridger's sitting behind him, and he asks, like, "Did the natives do that?" And it's like, "Come on, dog. Like, I know we're all trying to make small talk here, but of all things, like, no, like, what? Who do you think did it? Like, it happened in a bar in New York. Like, yeah, the natives did it. You're going to make this wild-eyed dude recount all of his trauma. He doesn't want to talk about this. His eyes are getting all wilded out now. Of all things, just if I see a guy who's been scalped, the last thing I'm ever going to do is talk to him about it. I will talk about anything else that's going on, but we're not going to talk about his missing scalp. Am I wrong on that? Now he's getting mad, and it's like, yeah, well, everyone gets tired of being asked crazy questions. Like, who else is, you know what I mean? Who else is going to scalp him out there? So then Bridger's drawing this like weird spiral on the canteen, like a Led Zeppelin logo. It's like, I guess so, man. Don't you have something better to do right now? But yeah, so Fitzgerald is going to, in this movie, lie to Bridger, say that Glass has died and they can leave now. And Bridger's going to be like, okay. And then they take off. And they find out later that was a lie. That didn't really happen. So after days of being here with Glass, the whole time they're looking all around them, going, okay, where are the Arikara? They know that there's scouting parties out there, and they know again that being caught is going to be a bad thing. So they kind of just go like, okay, he's, basically dead. On a scale of 1 to 10 on being dead, he's at like a 9.9, right? So, okay, good enough. We're not going to lose our lives here too. And they take off. But the movie portrays it as this big plot that Fitzgerald has. And he's over there whispering to Glass now. There's no record of this. There's no reason to believe that this happened. But he's going like, all right, buddy, it's time to check out, right? Like, I got things to do today. Bridger has things to do. And he's just going, listen, man, you got to call it a day. You got to let us get out of here. Just like, let it go. And Glass just kind of has to sit there and listen to it. When in reality, they probably just like sat around going like, when is this guy going to quit this? When is this guy going to give it up so we can go on our way? And Fitzgerald in the movie, I mean, again, like this one guy, he's like, oh, now do you still think getting off the boat was a good idea? You still think that was a great idea? Can't blame him for that. The man basically just wants to go home and have a beer. That's all he wants to do in this whole movie. Probably in real life too. And we're sitting here vilifying him posthumously. I think it's a crime, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's a crime. So this whole tirade, he's going, Glass, you got to give it up. Glass is like, he's like Rocky. He's like, I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. Okay, now he's going to try to make him check out on his own. He's stuffing a rag down his mouth, talking about Jesus. A little bit of a contradicting message there. Like, bro, do one or do the other. Okay, Glass's fake son. He kills him. He does like the first, manly thing or the first retaliatory thing he's done in the entire movie, and he's crying. So, he's calling for help. Help me, Jim Bridger. Help me, Jim Bridger. Fitzgerald's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Bam, grabs the rifle. Now listen to me, you little bugger. I'm tired of your mess. So they're screaming back and forth. And he's screaming for help. He's like, dude, you're going to call the Ricker over here. Shut up. Stabs him. Uh-oh. Glasses watch. And he's like, oh, this sucks, dude. You ruined my day. Down goes Glasses' son. And that's it for him. None of this ever happened. There was no Glasses' son. So like, oh, Bridger's a bad, or Fitzgerald's a bad guy. Nope. None of this happened. And Glass is like, oh, you killed my boy. He's slobbering all over the place. A very slobbery family in general in this movie. None of this happened. So basically, like, Glass is just laying there and they're trying to keep quiet for a couple of days. DiCaprio generated a lot of spit for this, man. Jeez Louise. Like, I know you're watching your son get killed, but like, take it down a notch. All right, they zoom up to the trees. The trees are waving back and forth. It's a very psychedelic movie, right? I forget where we're going next. So a lot of tree waving, a lot of tree waving, a lot of tree waving. Fade out. Let's see where we go. Back to the mountains. So yeah, we're going to really see this plot build here where Fitzgerald is going to be portrayed as this guy who has, he's a careless, heartless, hard-hearted guy. Now he's over there smoking his pipe. There's a real villain arc for him, but I think it, makes a good movie. Like, I think this movie overall is pretty good, right? There's just some stuff that they should have just taken out entirely. It really just takes the veracity of it down several notches. Oh, I think we just had a dislike. Hope you have a good Sunday too, man. Okay, now we're back to Bridger. They're talking at the camp, right? Bridger's like, well, we can't leave Glass. This is really bad, but we can't leave him. What are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Fitzgerald's listening to another guy piss and moan. So they come up with this resolution that, okay, we'll just wait here for a little while longer and then we'll move on to the next spot. But you can tell in Fitzgerald's eyes, he doesn't mean it. So, but yeah, this never really happened. And if it was you, I think put yourself in this situation. Even in contemporary times, people vilified Fitzgerald, but not so much Bridger, because I think it was understood amongst just about everybody that he's a 15-year-old, right? And I think people look back in history and they go, oh, 15 must have been like 30 today. And it's like, no, 15 is 15. He had never experienced any of this stuff. This is his first time out there. And, it's like any other, it'd be like a 15-year-old going to war or anything else. This is just way more than he was prepared, way more than he read about in the pamphlet, let's say, right? But I think it also, I think in totality, it gained him a fair measure of respect, because it's like, hey man, maybe you took off a little bit early, but you sure stayed around as long as you could. So Fitzgerald is faking like, okay, Glass is dead. We got to move. We got to get out of here. Bridger is just like, no, we got to stay. Fitzgerald just goes like full WWE, grabs Glass by the legs. Glass is still breathing, but he's like, listen, I've had enough of this, right? Like, I'm going home. Had it. Oh, you want me to bury the guy? No problem. I'll bury the guy. He's still kicking and moving, but that wasn't part of your proposition, right? Have you ever seen Stone Cold and Undertaker in Buried Alive match? Very much like that. He's just like, Fitzgerald's like, I've had enough of this, man. We'll bury the guy if you want to. Then we're moving on. So Bridger's like, well, I got this canteen. It's really about all I have to leave. So he's just going to start going, I'm sorry. And he throws the canteen at him. Then he bails too. And it's like, well, better than nothing, but it's not a lot, right? And a key critical point here is they took off with Glass's rifle, and they brought some of his personal effects right back with them to show that they had, they actually left Glass there, because he would, not want them to take them while he was alive. So he's dead. We got his stuff, but his rifle was something that was really expensive. It'd be worth a couple $1,000s today. So that was really his driving force in hunting them down later, not so much this revenge trip. He was just like, guys, where's my rifle? I need my rifle back. It's worth a lot of money. I've had a rough time as it is. Just turn that over and we'll be good. Which is my big gripe with the movie. they build these characters throughout for the purpose of making it a revenge story. And it's like, it's not a revenge story. It's not, you don't have to sissify it into just being a complete kumbaya story, but it's really a story of forgiveness. It's really a story of grace, of turning the other cheek and moving on. And I think that's really purposefully turned on its head here. And I think that's too bad. But we're back to the men carrying on, and they are going to Fort Henry, which I think is a reason they chose Captain Henry to be in the movie. A lot of the great landscape shots again. I think a lot of the snow stuff was shot in Argentina, which it ended up costing. I think it was supposed to cost them $30 million to begin with, and I think it went to $100 million. So, but it got him an Oscar. You get what you pay for. All right, so they're back to Glass. He's pushing his fist up through the dirt. He's not done, ladies and gentlemen. He's not done. He's only just begun. So he's reaching for his canteen. All right, so this part, pretty much how it happened. It was almost a lot longer and more torturous than this. He wakes up because he was unconscious when they left. And they think like, this guy is on his way out for sure. It's like maybe an hour left and he's going to be done. So like, why hang around? In fact, he wakes up and he just kind of starts rolling over, and then he finally starts crawling, and it's just this piece by piece, foot by foot thing. His one arm doesn't work. His back is wide open. He's still breathing out of his throat. And you got to think while he's moving through this, right? He's not all stitched up. He's got some stitches in the throat. He's got the frontier surgery done, but he's still got open wounds everywhere. Every time that he moves, dirt is getting in there, mud's getting in there, moss is getting in there, small rocks are getting in there. So it just gets worse and worse. He's running a fever. He's got no water nearby, so he first has to crawl to I think there's a creek nearby. He has to start crawling there, and he can only do it 3 yards, 5 yards at a time before he has to take a break. And this whole time, you'll show it in the movie here, he's looking up and scanning because he knows the Arikara are around. So it's not just this story of wilderness survival. It's also military survival, right? The enemy is around, and he has to make his way back to the fort, which is, I think, 400 miles at this point. It is a long, long way. His legs aren't working. He's basically kind of doing this army crawl and dragging his legs along to start. And this is a pretty accurate representation. It looks slow, it looks arduous, and it's how he really did it. He crawls over, finds his fake dead son. At least this didn't happen in real life, right? It's like, okay, I know it was bad. I know it sucked, but it could have been worse. Could have had a fake son. Could have been stabbed by Fitzgerald. That didn't really happen, right? Somebody's always got it worse than you. Sees his son. He's pretty pissed off. He's like, all right, I got to go back and get revenge. Can't kill my fake boy. Not having it. A little bit of an emotional moment here. Maybe the movie is a touch melodramatic, right? Is a tad. We kind of got it cranked to 11. Let's pull it back to 9 or so. Let me check the chat real quick while this guy canoodles his offspring here. I don't know if I can say that, but yeah, touching moment between father and son here. Canned bear meat. Heard of it, but never had any. Good. That's a good band name, though. What a rough and painful way of life in general. Absolutely. Maybe only people that got it worse are bull riders. Wow, they sew him up and digging. Yeah, they dug his grave. It's true. Yeah, they were like, well, we're going to need this in just a little bit, so we might as well do this. The Arikara were also expert swimmers. Right. Yeah, they lived perpetually near rivers. They were kind of semi-itinerant. Right? I believe so. So they would hunt on the plains and then also kept crops, which is more rare than not. Like the Dakota did that, the Pawnee did that, but it's not terribly rare. Or excuse me, not terribly common. Let's see. Run through the chat real quick. Lots of just like nature shots, so there's not really a lot for me to say other than, oh, that's nice. Let's see. Bear meat is best canned with all the fat taken off. Pennsylvania plowboy. What kind of diet y'all got in Pennsylvania? All right, we're to Fitzgerald smoking a pipe. Those are some of my favorite shots, right? He looks pretty badass smoking a pipe. Bridger's all upset, understandably so. He's saying it's so cold I can't even feel my feet. Again, this didn't happen during the coldest time of year, but it illustrates the point. Like these guys were out there, they didn't have a lot of accoutrement with them. So they were often cold, they were often hungry, just perpetually uncomfortable. And when they did find food, a lot of accounts have them eating 4, 5, 6, even 10 pounds of meat. A lot of times because it's really lean meat, but it's all they wanted. They didn't want bread, they didn't want vegetables, anything else. They just wanted meat. And you're burning, I've seen estimates look at 8, 10, 12,000 calories a day. So it's not, unthinkable that they would eat that much meat. But also there's times of feast, times of famine. So when they're going hungry, they're still burning 10, 12,000 calories a day and not replenishing that with anything. So they get to be skin and bones out there. It was a rough time. And you could come home with no money. It was just the way the business worked. All right. So Bridger is pointing a gun at Fitzgerald now, saying like, listen, dog, you got to tell me what happened. Are you lying to me? Like, why would you set me up like that? Now I got this on my conscience that we left glass. Not cool at all. And Fitzgerald is just going like, listen, kid, we all got lives to live. I've had a lot of guns pointed at me by kids during this movie. A little tired of it. Maybe we can just chill out for a second. And then he goes, it's the classic line, like, well, go ahead and pull the trigger then. Go ahead and do it. I bet you won't do it. And then click, right? Nothing goes off. Bad move. We're going to see some frontier kung fu from Fitzgerald in a second. Again, these guys were good fighters. Like there wasn't a lot of guns pulled on each other. They in general, worked as a team because you only got each other out there. There's a lot of like frontier wrestling and frontier games, but there's not a lot of accounts of guys just not getting along. There just wasn't a lot of time for that. They're working all the time. Your income depends on the guy you're working next to. But it did happen. And Fitzgerald is like fully had it with this kid now. Turns the gun on him. He's like, listen, you're going to chill out now? The kid's like, Bridger's like, yeah, all right. He's like, okay, let's move out. We got to get back to the fort. I got to get a beer. Another thing they do a good job here too is showing them hauling multiple weapons. They'd usually take a couple with them because it's only one shot at a time. So they'd have a couple pistols and a couple rifles, which is it's a substantial amount of weight to add too. These guys are carrying probably on average 20 to even 50 plus pounds. So that adds to the difficulty of it. And I think something people often overlook is like they don't have modern day footwear. They've got leather boots or moccasins. So blisters could be really common. There's no ankle support. It's not a comfortable way to travel, right? We're back to Glass. He wakes up next to his kid. It's kind of game over there, right? He's not having a good day. None of this really happens, so don't worry about it. But he did know he had to start making a crawl. So he's gathering his stuff up here, and this kind of happened. He gets his bearings. He's getting his stuff packed up. Don Willis, my fat butt is carrying an extra 20 to 50 pounds. Don, don't be so hard on yourself. We think you're perfect. 400 miles, what a daunting task ahead of him. Absolutely. It was somewhere around that, right? Like, let's say it's half that. It's still a long ways. For some reason, I don't know if there's any cultural significance to this or any historical veracity, but he put some moss in his deceased kid's mouth, which is like, if that's a real thing, I'm cool with slipping that in there kind of in light. It's a cool way to slip in cultural traditions, but I don't know. Like, can we just get to the point here? You know what I mean? So he's going to start crawling. A lot of lead up to actually just crawling. But he really is stranded in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to overstate how alone he was. And you can see him start crawling now. And it was days or weeks of crawling, and he would move from one point to the next. He would grab some berries, rest or sleep for a while, sometimes hours, sometimes days. and then move to the next plot of berries, the next carcass that he could find. And they'll show here he came upon a buffalo herd and really did, wait for the wolves to fill themselves on this carcass, this buffalo that they'd brought down, and then went on and found the carcass and chowed down like a champ. There's a lot of meat left on the carcass. That was his first really good feed. We found Bridger and realized that the other guy. Yeah, so we're gonna get to that. Like, he finds these guys later, and Bridger's too young. He kind of just like lets him go, and then the other guy, Fitzgerald, ended up joining the army. I think pretty pragmatically because he's like, one place that you can't catch me, you can't come after a guy and shoot a guy who's in the army. That's illegal. All right, we're back to Bridger and Fitzgerald hiking along. Lots of hiking in this movie. Lots of hiking. I turned on the captions, and there's only been like 20 captions in the whole movie. There's not really a ton of dialogue. So Glass crawling through the forest again. Leo had to be on the ground for quite a bit of this movie. He's crawling in a lot of it. They show him crawling to a skeleton now, and this really happened. He'd crawl to a skeleton, suck the marrow out of the bones, scrape off any kind of meat that was on there, and just eat as much as he could handle. Because his digestive system is really weak. His nervous system is in shock. So he's just barely clinging on this entire time. And he really is. He's not out of the woods yet, so to speak, no pun intended. But as he's crawling, as he's making his way to the fort, pretty much every day he's going like, well, this is it, right? The Arikara are now finding some traces of Glass, and this all really happened. So Glass is trying to crawl and stay ahead of the natives that are pursuing him. And anytime they find a camp like this, they know the trappers are relatively nearby. Because if you find a fresh fire, how far can you travel in a day? Not terribly far in this terrain. So they know you're somewhere by, and if anyone's going to track you down, it's going to be the Arikara. It's going to be any native tribe. They find his fake dead kid, fake dead son. I don't know how many times I can say that on YouTube. So we'll find out. Back to Glass crawling. Again, lots of crawling. And even then crawling, he has this like fur coat on that looks like something Clapton would wear in his Cream era. He's just crawling away. He comes up to another like postcard shot of the valley and the river. But one thing that really this illustrates is how geography also worked against him. He can't walk. He can't hardly even stand upright, and he has to find a way around all these cliffs and hills. And anytime he comes to a river, he has to basically kind of crawl along it until he can find a spot where he can cross on rocks or a sandbar. He finally gets to some water. This is all true. And he has to manage, if you've ever been really hungry or really thirsty, he has to manage how much he can take in at a time. So as he's going crazy from hunger and thirst, he has to only take in as much as his body can handle, because it's, ravaged with all these wounds. In the movie, they show him like pinching his throat so the water doesn't pour out of it. I don't know if that really happened, but pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm cool with that. Pretty metal. So he's hanging out on the riverside for a second. Everywhere he goes, though, he can't really stay for very long. He knows he's being tracked. He knows he's basically in a race with the Arikara to get to the fort. Now he's finding some grass. Going to try to build a little fire here. This was a common thing that they did. We don't know if Glass did it, but they'd cauterize wounds with gunpowder. So you'd stuff the wound with gunpowder and then light that on fire and then basically cauterize the wound. It's very unlikely that Glass did this, because it's like you don't want to start a fire when you're being pursued. And he probably didn't even have the energy to do so. Checking the chat real quick. Stories by Kate says Slow Hand Glass. That's pretty good. That would have been a good nickname for him. I don't think the Mountain Men at this time didn't have a lot of. Well, I don't know if Hugh Glass had a cool nickname. Now that I think about it, that's a real opportunity to have a lot of cool nicknames, and you don't hear of a lot of them. Okay, he's got a little fire going, getting ready to do a little cauterization here. But while Glass didn't do this, or we would probably presume that he did not do this, this did happen. And these guys were hurt all the time. And this could be a wound from, like I said, a trap going off on you, a knife cut. You could wound yourself preparing dinner. So, and that could be a life-threatening wound. So they all had their frontier medicine that they would apply. All right, so we're back to the trapping company. One thing it shows is these guys are always hiking on like snowy mountain peaks, and that didn't really happen. They would look for valleys and passes to go through. There's a lot more pragmatism in real life than in the movies, but the shots are really good. They illustrate the kind of austerity of what these guys were going through. Then we're back to Fitzgerald and Bridger. Everybody's heading to the same fort, right? So the company is heading to the same fort. Bridger and Fitzgerald are going to the same fort, and Glass knows where everybody is going. So we've got this central point where everybody's moving to throughout the movie. Glass has a little fire going now. He's nibbling on a bird skeleton, finally getting some sleep in this cave. Again, throughout the whole trek, Glass he doesn't mention any fire starting in his biography. Yeah, he dictated his story to someone else, so I guess that qualifies as a biography. But didn't talk about it starting any fires. It was a real hazard and probably not super necessary with it being spring, summertime. Though it gets very cold out there. But he didn't bring up starting any fires because that really gives away your position to the Arikara. So Glass looks back now, sees some elk crossing the stream. He imagines that he's got a rifle. He's shooting at the elk, imaginary shooting at the elk. We don't know that this happened. Probably not. He probably didn't have time to play a lot of games. But, it's just a guy hanging out, having a little fun before he has to move on again. He looks in his bag. He finds the bear claw necklace that Bridger made for him. I don't know how I'd feel about that, right? You're like, I kind of had enough of these already. But he seems to like it. No evidence that happened in real life, but the actual real life sketch of Glass he wore bear claw necklace from someone, whether he made it himself or was gifted it. But in the picture, he's got this awesome bear claw necklace. Hello from San Francisco. Thank you for being here. Armenian Bishop. I grew up about 90 minutes from San Francisco, so spent a lot of time there. Grew up a Niners fan. Joe Montana era. Right into Steve Young, Jeff Garcia even. Okay, back to Glass. He's crawling on the creek. We don't know that Glass got this close to the Arikara, right? We know that they were tailing him, but this shows him, they're yards away and he's hiding in the cave. This didn't happen. No, it's not mentioned that we know of. Though it happened to other mountain men all the time. And this is a great job of capturing the totality of a mountain man's life, of their experience. So Glass is slipping into the river here. And this is, like I said, kind of an amalgamation of stories, but there are stories like this where guys slip into the river and you're kind of letting it carry you downstream. So again, this wouldn't be unheard of at all. He looks up, he hears the warriors chattering above him. Now, this is something that's a little unrealistic because if you got this close and you're just under the cliff, the Arikara are likely going to spot you. But lots of close calls. And again, realize that this is a zero-sum game. Like either you get caught and tortured or you don't. That's pretty much it. All right, he's in the river now. He's swimming. And there are accounts of this, like guys fleeing by just jumping into the river and swimming away, being carried by the current. I don't think in reality that the arrows have a lot of firepower once they hit the water. They did a test on bullets, I think on Mythbusters or something about the Saving Private Ryan opening scene, because the bullets are like going 6 feet under the water and still taking guys out. I don't think that's totally true. And then we see him about to go over this waterfall. Again, a little bit of artistic license here, but it looks awesome. And it is illustrative of the difficulty of his total trip. He was caught in the water at one point. And again, just kind of like something that happened fairly regularly. Guys get swept away in the river. A lot of the rivers around there are, you know, known for their swift current. This is a bad situation. So he's floating down the river. Looks like he's not having a terrible time. Like, man, for all the drama in this movie, he looks the most chilled out when he's almost drowning in the river. Was the payoff for fur trapping enough of a draw to get people to take these chances? Absolutely. It's just like people working as on oil rigs or you know, gosh, name them today, crab boats, any kind of dangerous profession now. You do it because of the pay, because it's one there's also very few ways for these guys to make that kind of money. Very possibly no other way for them to make that kind of money. So a lot of these guys are from backgrounds where it's like you can either stay on the farm your whole life or you can give this a shot. Another panoramic scene. This does a good job of showing the plains here. All right, now he's coming to the shore. I have it on captions, like, and half of what it's showing me is the word grunting in parentheses. Not a lot of dialogue. Not a lot of dialogue. Now it says groans. It's like, yeah, I get it. He's fighting his way out of the water. This is again, I think they're just adding the snow and everything for a little dramatic effect. But this shows psychologically where he's at. All the way through this, he's becoming almost more and more desperate for at least the first couple of weeks of this. He's just going, I can't keep doing this. He's just crawling because there's nothing else to do. He doesn't want to just lay there and expire. So he's crawling kind of just to crawl. He can hardly walk at this point. It's weeks before he's able to stand up. Now we're back to Fitzgerald. They're walking through some kind of little settlement here. There's Bridger. Lots of pigs running around. A non-native animal to the North American continent. Oh, there's another attack. And this shows this is supposedly attack from Captain Leavenworth, who was notorious for other attacks. You know, he was not a super popular guy. And it kind of shows the scope of what it would have looked like after a army attack on a village. And I think this story certainly has a point that it's trying to convey, but you know, I would say whether or not you agree with the point, it is trying to shove a lot of history into this 2.5 hours. So I'm sure that, you know, could the movie have been done without this scene? Probably, but it's a way to illustrate the totality of this frontier war that's raging for decades. And this stuff really happened. They don't have any notes again of their interaction with the Pawnee woman in Bridger and Fitzgerald's travels, but it's a way. It's a dramatic device, right? And I think this illustrates Bridger's kind of notorious kind-heartedness because he leaves her a little bit of food that he has and doesn't mention her to Fitzgerald because Fitzgerald's kind of a jerk, right? He's in a bad mood right now. But he leaves her a little parcel of food, which is real kindness on the frontier. Again, there's no record of this happening, but Bridger was known as a charitable guy, known as a pretty good guy, had a good humored guy. And he was around the frontier for 60 years. All right, so now it's nighttime. Fitzgerald, Bridger, they're at camp. Fitzgerald asks, like, you all right, kid? And so maybe that's revenge for Bridger's stupid question about his scalping, because it's like, no, clearly the kid's not all right. He's kind of running through his head how guilty he feels for leaving Glass. This, again, no record, but Bridger kind of mentions it about how guilty he felt. There's no record of this specific situation, but he's racked by guilt by leaving Glass. And Fitzgerald goes on one of the best scenes in the movie, I think. He's talking about how he wants to go to Texas and join his ranger buddies. Because at this time, I think this is interesting. In the early 1830s, late 1820s, he's describing Texas as this more peaceable place where the tribes down there will rob you, but won't necessarily kill you. And it's much better than the territories up here in Dakota, where it's super dangerous. And at the time, people probably did say stuff like that because Texas had only expanded westward, not even to, barely to present day Dallas, maybe to present day San Antonio, but there wasn't a lot of contact with the Comanche yet. There was contact with the Caddo and the Waco and the Tawankoni, but not much with the Comanche yet. So it still was regarded as not safe, but safer. So there's a little bit of an allusion to that in this movie. And then he starts talking about how his dad was attacked and somehow survived and he found God in a squirrel, which is like deeply heretical, but pretty funny story. And then he shot the squirrel and ate him. And like shooting the squirrel and eating him is what made him survive and kind of deified the squirrel in his mind. And it's an awesome, dramatic little story. I don't know that it happened, and I don't care. It's definitely necessary in the movie. And Bridger's kind of looking at this guy like, crap, I should not have volunteered to stay. Like I should have gave this job to somebody else because this guy freaks me out 24 hours a day. It's not real. Fitzgerald was regarded by Bridger and everybody else as like a decent guy, like a little pragmatic, but pretty decent guy, pretty cool guy. Now they're showing they're back to glass. He's got a little walking stick. He's hobbling away from the creek. They have to kind of show these weeks of recovery, in a condensed time period. I think they do a good job too of showing these natural phenomenon. A lot of these guys, a lot of the mountain men talk about crazy stuff they saw. In this case, it's a meteor falling from the sky. They saw all kinds of wildfires, deformed animals, ceremonies, native ceremonies they'd never seen before, sounds that they were never seen and didn't know where they came from, all sorts of creepy, spooky, inexplicable stuff. Okay, now we're flashing to to the attack that killed his Pawnee wife. He did have a Pawnee wife. She wasn't attacked and killed, but an accurate representation of what an army attack on a village would look like. The army uniforms are pretty accurate. Again, the costumes in this, the wardrobe, they did a good job. So Glass is back. He's waking up, checking his wounds. Surprise, surprise, they don't look great. Needs a little Neosporin, doesn't have any. But he's able to build himself a fire now. He's inching his way closer and closer to the Fort Paidet, and he's kind of solidifying in his mind as this goes, that it goes from kind of just survival for survival's sake to like, I can actually do this. I think I can actually make it to the fort. This is a good example here of a fish trap that is super common on the frontier, super common today on streams. It's a kind of a almost enclosed circle of stone that you get the fish to swim in and then you trap them. And people still do this today. He's going to grab himself a fish. He would be a star on TikTok doing this. Waiting for him, waiting for him, waiting for him. Grab the fish, Hugh. Grab the fish. Grab it. Grab it. Grab the fish. All right, he got the fish. Bites his head off. Very Ozzy Osbourne. Okay. No cooking it. Full sashimi style. Hard to believe infection didn't kill him in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a real miracle. There may be some explanation for that, but I don't know. I don't know how he didn't get an infection and just succumb to fever and sickness. Right, sepsis. All right. And as we go here, kind of they're showing days, a succession of days in a minute's time here. He's going stronger and stronger. Now he's walking. He's able to move, much more comfortably under his own power. He's dragging a leg, but we're doing better, right? We're getting there. by an inch or a mile. We're making progress every day. Maybe he could have been like the Tony Robbins of his time. He would have gave a hell of a motivational speech. But Glass only lasted like 5 years after this. The Arikara eventually got him, which I think is always like, I understand leaving that out, but it's like, well, he evaded the Arikara for a while, right? And he's my boy. I like Glass. I'm just saying the Arikara eventually came out on top. The Arikara got a lot of the mountain men. You'd think it'd mostly be Blackfoot, Arapaho, Cheyenne, probably mostly Blackfoot, but the Arikara got a lot of them. And there was time periods where they were like cool with each other, but there was a lot of them that the Arikara got. So now he's coming up on a bison herd, huge bison herd. I think this does a good job, though, of showing the herd being a realistic size. It doesn't literally cover the whole ground for miles, but it is very, very big. There's a pack of wolves attacking this buffalo, and this really happened. So he watched these wolves attack this buffalo and figured like, well, I'll just wait till they're done and I'll get the scraps. And in real life, he's said to have lit a torch and then kind of just chased them off with it, right? Well, I say that like it's easy, but by the time you've been through all this, like the least of your troubles is lighting a torch and chasing off a couple wolves. So he's watching them, shifts to nighttime. He's still hungry. But you can see also his appetite growing through all this. He starts with berries, starts with sipping some water. He's moved to a canteen of water now. He's able to finally get some sleep. He's woken up by a man shouting in Pawnee, which this didn't happen, but Glass, did speak Pawnee. So he hears this. He's wondering, like, am I dreaming? No, it's a real guy who's a fake guy who's actually Pawnee. So now he sees the wolves being chased off by a guy with a torch. In real life, that guy was him. But again, we're adding another character for dramatic effect here. And in this movie, they show it being a huge bonfire that he's chased him off with. And like, there's no way that you're lighting a huge bonfire. It's like a literal spotlight to draw in any tribes in the area. So this did not happen like this, but he was able to get the buffalo meat. Huge W on that. So again, like in the captions, it's just giving me more audible body noises. So now he's gasping. But coming upon a buffalo, even if it's been, let's say it's half of it's been eaten by the wolves, that's still, man, maybe hundreds of pounds of buffalo left to eat. They would eat the organs. So yeah, it's hundreds of pounds of meat. Now, again, this scene didn't happen specifically, but this would have happened at some point over the course of frontier history with the mountain men and native tribes. Anytime you met each other, it's a mortal threat. So he has to kind of physically signal that he means peace. You could do that by just like raising your hand and being like, yo, I'm cool. I'm cool. You don't have to like get down on your stomach and do like a full prostration. But he's really selling it here. He's really selling like, yo, I'm cool. Let me have a little buffalo. He's like doing the hand signal. Give me a little buffalo. How about it? So the guy says, come on over, dog. Come on over. I got a little grub for you. An interesting part, he's supposed to toss him the liver. And that more than likely wouldn't happen because that's like a prized piece. It would be like today, like, oh, I'll throw you the filet mignon or the ribeye. It's like, that really wouldn't happen. That's like our most prized cut of meat. The liver's super nutrient dense. They would often eat it raw. A lot of the organs they would eat first. Like they would eat the liver. They like squirting the gallbladder on the liver. That kind of they liked squirting the gallbladder bile into a nursing mother's open stomach or nursing calves open stomach and making this like frontier yogurt, which is like it's not my place to say that's gross, right? But it's not gross. Yeah, Don Willis, you get it. It's not gross, right? So they're out there camping now. They have 3 separate fires going. Definitely did not happen. But he did find a buffalo. He grubs for a while. He chills for a while. Now we're back with the boys again. I got to see, give me a second. I'm watching a lot of like wide pan out shots. So when it zooms back, I never quite know where we're at. Okay, we're back to poking around at Glass's wounds. And surprise, surprise, they do not look good. They don't look good. He's literally poking them with his bow. That can't feel good. They're going back and forth in Pawnee, basically having a conversation where he's like, I'm injured. And it's like, yeah, you're clearly injured. He's like, well, how did you get injured? And he's like, well, these giant claw marks come from a bear. Go figure. And now he's like, look at my necklace. Look at it. I got some swag from it. Check it out. Here, you can have my necklace from the bear that tried to eat me. Don Willis, good seeing you, man. We'll see you next time. We got another live stream coming up Tuesday, Wednesday. He's telling him, like, listen, he's telling the Pawnee guy, like, my boys left me. I was done wrong. You got to feel for me here. You got to help me out. Wagon Train TV did a series on Bridger. Yeah, that was a good series. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. That's a good series. So none of this really happened. It's like it shows the relationship between the Pawnee and kind of how the Pawnee, who would the Pawnee were allied with. Clearly, they're not allied with the Arikara at this time. And kind of how politics on the plains worked. Hugh Glass is saying, you got to help me get revenge. And the Pawnee is saying, no, that's your business. That was pretty common. Like some, just like today, like sometimes people want to help the other person out. Sometimes they don't. The guy's just got a lot going on. Same way back then. All right. We're back to, this is again an unnecessary ad where they got the Pawnee guy is hauling glass on the back of his horse. It's just like, guys, this didn't happen. He crawled this whole way, kind of taking a little like wind out of his sails by doing this, really. But he's camping. It at least kind of gives a view of, Pawnee culture, Pawnee garb, Pawnee, the range that the Pawnee kept at the time. Now he's filling his canteen again. I think this is an interesting plot they keep, or a point that they keep revisiting. They show him eating more and more and drinking more and more. And he's able to drink more because of the canteen that Bridger left him. And you can see him kind of softening up the farther he travels. Like he's less and less interested in revenge on Bridger because he at least kind of maybe subconsciously realizes that the canteen is a lifeline that Bridger gave him. And that he's like just a kid. So the Pawnee is telling them like, well, those wounds don't look good. You might get sepsis. And it's just like a lot of Captain Obviouses in this movie, right? Where it's like, yeah, we could have just not said that. It's pretty obvious. You don't have to remind me. It's like somebody slapping you when you have a sunburn. It's like, yeah, okay. You don't have to make it worse. All right, Fitzgerald and Bridger arrive at the fort. So a good thing they show about the fort here, it is an enclosed palisade, right? But there's teepees all around it, which was a super common thing because it's a trade hub as well. It's not just a defensive position where you hunker down and you're like, we're not going anywhere. It's a trade hub. So tribes that were friendly with them would show up and stake out for weeks. They're just like hanging out. And they'll go trade for a day, see what they can get, come back, stay there, take stuff back the next day. It was, a kind of a place to meet up, hang out, and do business too. So lots of lodges outside of the fort. Another really accurate representation. And also having the kids run up to them as they're coming to the fort. It's like, yeah, all this really happened in some way where they were like, kids are today, where they're like, oh, who's this new guy coming up? Let's go check him out. Let's check out his horses, his weapons. Just it's a novelty. They don't have cable TV, right? They have no Wi-Fi. All right, so now they're back. They're giving Captain Henry a kind of rundown of what happened. We left Glass. He was done for, and he was checked out. Lights out. Clock has run out of time on Glass. We did our job. Hand us the money. So he's like, did he really die? And he's like, oh yeah, for sure. He looks at Bridger. Is he telling the truth? Oh yeah, for sure. Like, we're just trying to get paid. You know what I mean? At this point, it's like, I'm really feeling for Bridger here. Maybe this is not going to age well, but I mean, I'm really feeling for Fitzgerald here because it's just like, all right, was he technically dead? No, man, but basically, and we've come all this way. I had this kid point a gun at me. Can I just get paid and go home? It's all he's been trying to do the whole movie. They got really cool little Old West shot glasses, though. Pewter shot glasses. Classy. And again, a good representation of what these forts look like. They're just rough hewn cabins, basically, surrounded by a big pointy fence. Not terribly different from a fob in the global war on terror, right? Like the same thing, like kind of a centralized hub, but nothing fancy. So you can see the captain getting more and more dubious and asking, like, listen, you're sure he was done, right? And there's nothing more you could do. And Fitzgerald's like, Scout's honor, man. Never seen anybody deader in my life. And just takes off. Kind of a Chad, right? Kind of a G. Now Bridger's all upset. This probably really happened. He's 15. He's just totally emotionally discombobulated by this whole thing happening. I think he really was upset until Glass came back in real life. I mean, to the point where like he's 15, he just started his career and he was going to quit because this is like, if this is what the life is like, it's not for me, right? But we're showing Glass progressing now. I almost kind of want to give them even a little more license that this Pawnee guy he's with is kind of a figment of his subconscious. Like this is kind of how his survival mechanism in his own brain. It wasn't, right? Like he doesn't mention anything about this, but it's, kind of a spirit guide of sorts, let's say. Now I don't get this scene either. Like, why this is a tough movie. It's an action movie. Do we have to stick our tongue out and catch snowflakes? Predator is like the perfect movie because nobody's catching snowflakes, right? I feel like that's what this could have been. We could have started with him on a pirate ship and then go right to the bear attack, maybe a little bit of sandbar massacre, and like give me 40 minutes of, dogged crawling and bleeding from everywhere. And then these other guys, pointing guns at each other. I'll take it over this. Okay, now we're back to some trees. What are those? Those are willows, I believe. I'm not a botanist, arborist, whatever. Lots of trees, lots of sunshine. It's like a bit of a PBS nature special. So they're walking through the snow now. I feel like, okay, eventually the snow just plays way too much of a part in the retelling of this because it wasn't there. Oh, Glass falls off the horse. But again, a good representation that he's not really, it's a long process here. And he's suffering the whole time. So now he's kind of flagging. He's like, bro, I've about had it. Pawnee bro is like, hey, we got to get it together. We got to keep it together. I'm going to build you a fire. Again, none of this really happened. Okay, now we're back to Pawnee bro is building a fire. Got a little bundle together. He's broing on it. Textbook. Great technique. We got the fire going. He's chopping down a tree. Oh, man. Of all the people to find on the frontier, he found the most industrious dude ever. And if he had found this guy in real life, I'm sure it would have been helpful. But it's basically this. I get maybe why they brought this guy in, because they don't want to show a whole movie of a guy just crawling. That's what this was for weeks. He would go from berry bush to carcass, from berry bush to carcass. And so now I have the Pawnee guys building a shelter. He kind of just finds these random people who give him metaphors that seem to really inspire him about trees and roots and storms and stuff. But like, I don't know why that would fire anybody up. It seems to really, get him going. But me, I'm just like, that wouldn't help me at all. Roots, trees, storms. Like, yeah, man, I got gaping wounds on my back. Priorities, huh? Let's take care of these first. So he's building them like a kind of sauna here. This was a real thing that happened. They really did heat stones and then put water on them and in lodges, but this didn't happen on Glass's excursion. Wheezing. This whole movie, the whole script is just like body sounds. Check the chat real quick. Man, thank you all for being here. This is fun. Nothing's more fun than making fun of something. So now we've got, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, they found an old cathedral. Lots of good old Catholic artwork. A real thing too. There was lots of missions that were founded and then abandoned and then reclaimed, but it wouldn't be uncommon, and it would be culturally generally quite a shock to a strong majority of Protestant mountain men. Most of them were from the American Northeast, so completely culturally different than Spanish. And the Spanish who went out there and made missions. But still, pretty psychedelic. This is a good scene. And like I said, likely something that could have happened to your typical mountain man. This is pretty far north for Spanish missions, but we're squeezing a lot of fiction in here. He sees his fake son again. Somehow he's got his hair combed. Everything, he's like been to wardrobe real quick. His hair's looking, got the lettuce looking good. Son's walking towards him. He's probably going to complain some more. Now he's not saying anything, at least. At least he's not complaining. Gives him a nice strong hug. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just a lot of time eaten up, you know? Yeah, very heartwarming moment, but it's like imaginary heartwarming. Taking a lot of time on this. A lot of the dramatic eye closed, hugging. Oh, hugging. He's still hugging. There's no sound effect that's, oh, he's hugging a tree. This guy's out of his mind. He's hugging a tree. He's collapsing to his knees. He's basically on a bad acid trip at this point. The bell is ringing behind him too, which is some nice symbology. Honestly, I don't know what it means, but I'm glad that it's there. And so now he's just like got this look on his face like, am I hugging a tree? I am in a bad shape. And then he wakes up. He has lots of dreams in this, but the whole tree thing was a dream. So now he's coming out of the sweat lodge, feeling fresh as a daisy. It's like he just had a bad hangover, you know, hit the sauna, pops out. He's ready to go to Chipotle, feel like a new man. He's crawling out. He's getting dressed. His wounds still look pretty terrible, but he feels better. Pawnee is gone. And I don't know, like, maybe this is just to say like the Pawnee was a figment of his imagination. I'm not sure, but something I thought that was like a little confusing to add, right? Like, and you're adding in another tribe and making it confusing what tribe he's from. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the chat. Good addition with the Pawnee guy or Pawnee bro? Yes or no? So he's hiking along now. We're back to a more realistic scene. He's even got a heavier walking stick. So getting stronger and stronger. Oh, that's right. And then he finds the Pawnee bro, unfortunately unalived and hanging from a tree branch. He's got a sign on him. Let's see what it says. I have to look over here. Honestu des sauvages. So it's the French. The French got to him. Not a ton of French hate crimes, but there's one. And it's like, how many people are going to be able to read French out there? I don't know, maybe more than I think, but it's a lot of effort to put the sign on the guy. Like, do you have a ladder to climb up there and put the sign over him after? Or was that done beforehand? Did he cooperate with the sign being put around his neck? It just raises more questions. So now he's hiding behind a tree. At this point, Glass's days are spent divided between crawling and hiding behind a tree. Now he comes upon the French camp. Merry Frenchmen, right? They're all laughing, having a good time. But the French have really made the Arikara mad. So the French are in danger too. There's more of the French. They look like they're in a better position, but they're, asking for a beating too. So the Arikara are planning an attack now. And I think this does an outstanding job of showing the kind of dynamic nature of frontier alliances and how, allies could turn to enemies overnight. And really how like the enemy of one's enemy is one's friend. And so it's like they're not even after Glass at this point, they're after the French. Because there's more of them and they've done them wrong more than Glass has at this point. And the French have basically an attached prisoner in the form of a probably Pawnee woman, which were essentially like not literal chattel slaves, but essentially concubines, treated as concubines that they would purchase, which was seen as like not wholly reprehensible at the time, kind of part of frontier culture. So Glass, he's saddling a horse with his like bear fur blanket and getting ready to steal a horse from the French. This didn't happen. Stealing horses from the French too would be, almost exclusively a native tribe practice. So he's trapping one of these Frenchmen. He's got a gun to him. He's like, "Listen, dog, I'm taking the girl. We're getting out of here." And it's like, this is cool. This didn't really happen. I get it, adds some action to it, but it's just it makes it more confusing to me. It's like, so now the girl's in the picture. Now we're, fussing with the French. Just seems like a lot. Now the girl's got a knife and she's threatening to literally emasculate the Frenchman. I had to look up what emasculate meant before I used it in this script from a while ago. It's not good. It's not good. Okay, we're back to the French. They're going, "Where is Toussaint?" And it's like, they're kind of saying it like Toussaint goes missing all the time. But now he's missing. We don't know where he's at. And Glass is hiding behind the one saddled horse. And then he shoots one shot from his single shot pistol. And it's like, okay, now I'm riding away. I guess he has another pistol on him. He shoots another French guy and he rides away. It's like, I doubt that really happened, but he dropped his canteen. Well, we know that didn't really happen, but a horse raid would not happen like that. You certainly wouldn't saddle them first and then pick one and ride away with it. They're showing two French guys dancing, which is like, man, you're really laying it on here. Now there's Fitzgerald. Oh, those are guys. Okay, so we're back at the American fort now. And there's no women, so they're just dudes having a party, I guess, right? Everybody's having a good time. We're smoking some cigs. We're drinking some ale. And Henry's back to talking to Fitzgerald, like, "Oh, so like, what happened out there again?" And Fitzgerald just going like, "Listen, dog, there's lots of snow. There's lots of dirt. I don't remember, but Glass is no more. All right. I was there. Now I'm here. That was then. This is now." And there's candles everywhere. You wonder why these places burn down so frequently. But yeah, so Henry's kind of pressing Fitzgerald a little bit. And Fitzgerald's going, "Listen, dog, I was hired to catch beaver, not to keep watch over guys." All right. And they're kind of going back and forth. And Henry's all kind of upset about this. But it's basically like an argument between an employer and an employee. And he's saying, basically, I believe that he's in debt to the company, which is the last thing that Fitzgerald wants to hear. He's not happy. He's not happy at all. So we're showing some dancing around now. This is a cool look into like how a get together at the time would have looked. It's super dark inside. Everybody is hammering drinks. There was plenty of alcohol usually. Smoking some cigs, smoking some pipes. He goes out and it's just brutally cold. But yeah, it's snowing and the guy walks out of the bar and like tries to pee outside. So everything changes and nothing changes. Mike Holt, what's up from Detroit, dude? Good to see you in here. Going down the rabbit hole of the Comanche. Absolutely. That's a good rabbit hole. Yeah, my voice is starting to go, guys. The allergies are getting to me again. All right, so we're back to Glass riding alone on this open spot. He never got a horse, so he treks this whole time. But again, the movie's got to kind of move it along, so they give him a horse. They're like, listen, dog, we don't have all day. He's camping again next to a fire. Didn't happen. This is just like, again, putting out like the bat signal that you're here. So when you're trying to avoid any native tribe, you are not going to be lighting fires. It's called a cold camp for a reason, right? Back to some more nature shots. Glass is sleeping again. Honestly, none of these sleeping positions look that bad, right? Like very posture friendly. Bet these guys didn't have back pain. It's the way nature intended us to sleep. Mattresses are a scam, guys. Anyways, now, worst possible scenario for Glass, there is a tribe of mounted Arikara on the warpath, meaning like with the intention of attacking the French. They're painted up. They are ready for action. Glass hears them coming. And here they're like, but if they see Glass, right, they're going to take Glass out too. And here, Glass is woken up by some warriors like 15 yards away. Good for the drama, but it's like, there's no way you'd be able to move fast enough. But he does. He takes off. He gets on the horse. The horse isn't tethered down, so he's able to just hop on him and run. In real life, he'd be tethered down. Usually they picket them for the night too, but he didn't have a horse anyways, so what's it matter? Now he's riding away from the Arikara, clearly towards a cliff. It's like you've been walking this area for a while. You must know there's a cliff there. At least you've got some vague idea. But he's like, screw it, we're going off the cliff. This definitely did not happen. He lands in the pine tree. Horse goes to the ground. And the Arikara are like, well, you know what I mean? Why do something the hard way? We got it done. We might not have got it done right, but we got it done fast. So he falls all the way to the ground. A great cinematic shot, but this, again, didn't happen. Very Skywalker-esque. He's going to wake up here. He's going to cut the horse open. Going to sleep inside the horse. Let's check the chat real quick while he's recovering. That movie was so full of BS, I couldn't force myself to finish it the first couple of times I tried to watch. I did eventually finish it, from Marcus Wyatt 2849. Yeah, it's I really liked it the first time I watched it. And then the more I watched it, the more I'm just like, they're really laying it on thick here. I think it's a net positive for fans of history because it brings the story to light at all. Most people would have no idea who Hugh Glass was before this. But it, like I said, certainly tinges the story in a very purposeful way that I think it costs the overall feel of it. I saw it in the theater. I did too. Yeah, I thought it was cool in the theater. But I didn't know as much about Hugh Glass at the time. And the more you learn, the more you're just like, oh, this movie, it's not that it's bad, but it could have been so much better. And this, I just thought like, look, it happened every once in a while where guys would like sleep near or kind of like force themselves inside of a freshly killed animal's body cavity. But Glass didn't do it. And this just seemed like a way for the director to sneak in his Star Wars fantasy, right? Like this is just so evocative of Star Wars to me that it just seemed like a little on the nose. We could have done without it. Experts, KGM Malovich. It's crazy how the experts act like they were there to witness all of these things. True, it is, and there's just sparse records. There's not a ton of records other than Hugh Glass's own account and the guys that were with him. And those are pretty similar. There's not a lot of disparity between the witnesses' accounts and Glass's own account. Again, he's crawling inside the horse, just sticking his mouth out just a tad. It's like he's more miserable than ever, really. You can't blame him. It just keeps getting worse and worse. But again, luckily this didn't happen, so we don't have to worry about this part so much. Short Stories by Kate says he's dead. Again, yeah. It's like he's got 9 lives in this movie. So we're back to a dark forest landscape shot. Back to a snowy landscape shot. And in real life, again, during this time, Glass is just crawling away. If he'd be lucky to get, a couple miles in a day when he began. So now we're waking up inside the horse. And is this not the same shot that Luke Skywalker did? I'm not a Star Wars aficionado, so I forget what movie it's in, but it's basically the same cinematography, right? And it's like we put all this money into flying all over the world, and then we got to put another 10 grand into like, how do we design a dead horse stomach cavity? Bro, just leave it out. It's fine. And DiCaprio emerging, gonna be honest, looking a little doughy, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be just like cut up for the movie, but it's like DiCaprio's always looking a little doughy. You got plenty of free time, bro. Hit the weights just a touch. Am I wrong? It's a little doughy for a mountain man. Right there. No, then all you know is stories recounted by numerous people. Don't claim you know anything. Well, no more than you, KJ Mavlovich. If you're talking to me. So now he's like apologizing to the horse. Like, sorry, buddy. It wasn't my fault. We went off the cliff. Thanks for giving me some shelter for the night. Peace out. He's back to walking. And it does kind of show when these guys are in these valleys and stuff, they're really caught and they're going to have to walk their way out. And there's so many times that they would walk their way into valleys and you're kind of just having to walk through with both sides, could be full of warriors, could be full of bears, could be anything. So I always found that like the most disturbing aspect of mountain man life, having to walk through these dark valleys. Now they show him like walking across a frozen lake. Again, it's like, all right, guys, like there's a lot of landscape shots here. They look beautiful, but there's a lot of them. But he's hiking along, moving faster. I think it's interesting they give him a heavier and heavier walking stick. Some of the symbolism here, like I find the more times I watch it, and maybe I don't even know what it's symbolizing, but I'm glad it's symbolizing something. In this case, they show him getting stronger and stronger, and they show these ebbs and flows of his experience. And he talks about those. Glass talks about those in his memoir, where he's like, "Oh, I would start feeling good, and then I would hit a whole new bottom that I never thought could happen." So he's hitting these waves of hope and waves of depression as he moves along here, which he doesn't leave a ton of accounts about. That wasn't the writing style at the time. That wasn't the common parlance to talk about one's emotional experience as you're going through these things, but it's kind of implied. If you've ever done anything that required more endurance than you had, intended on giving, you just hit these ebbs and flows, and you'll hit just the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And he did that for week after week after week. All right, now we're seeing, I believe this is a Frenchman coming in here. They start stacking in characters late in the movie too. But he's telling them, I survived another Arikara attack. Things are still rough out there. It's not great. You guys got it good here. Stay here. But he's recounting this attack, and they're saying, if you're going to stay here, you got to give us a little something. You got to kick us a couple bits of silver. But now he's like, well, how about this canteen with the spiral drawn on it? And now the guys start looking around. Bridger grabs the canteen, and he's a little panicked. It's like, well, where'd you get this from? And he says, oh, it could be Bridger's fake son. And Fitzgerald says, maybe, right? Because I definitely didn't kill him. Now everybody's going, they grab the French guy. Where is Glass? Where did you see him? He says, on the Yellowstone River. At this point, the actor playing Bridger does a great job of acting kind of excited, but definitely panicked because, you could face serious corporal punishment for leaving him. I don't know if it'd be like manslaughter or murder by today's standards, but bad. And Fitzgerald's just kind of like, oh crap. And in real life, they would have both been like, oh crap. They both felt bad about it. And because they believed it was something they felt bad about, and it also grievously hurt their reputation, at least in the short term. Now these guys are all going out with torches. Likely something that didn't happen. They're not going to go out with torches. Usually they'd wait till dawn and go out when you're going to have the most available daylight. Cool shot, though. They're out there hunting for the horses or hunting for Glass. They're on their horses with torches. On horses with torches is a good cinematic combination. All right. We're stalking through the woods at night. Again, not super realistic. Looks good, though. And we're looking. This is the equivalent of like having a bunch of mag lights and, walking through the forest looking for a missing person, right? But finally, it is Hugh Glass. And this really is how it happened. It was during the daytime, but Glass stumbled up to the walls, stumbled up to the fort, and everyone was just like, who is this guy? He's so messed up. And then they see it's Glass. And this changes everything. It is him. They bring him inside the fort. He is barely, I don't think he was even able to speak when they first found him. He's emaciated. He's 10, 20, 30 pounds lighter than the last time they saw him. It's just unthinkable that he would have still been alive. And at this point, like you said, this changes Bridger's and Fitzgerald's dynamic entirely. But Fitzgerald, important point, wasn't at the fort when Glass arrived. He had joined the army, which is a super smart move we talked about earlier, because it's like, well, if this guy is coming back, it's illegal to shoot anybody, but it's super illegal to shoot somebody in the army. Right? That's a federal problem there. So he figures he'll be safe in the army, and he was right. That's a good call. So Henry is finally going like full, what do you call it? Perry Mason on it, right? Like he's going to solve what happened here. Fitzgerald's taken off. He plans to join the army, go to Texas, chill out, get away from all this, people causing him headaches. So there's a really dramatic scene here. I think this is the most unfortunate part of the movie, where Fitzgerald is portrayed as this villain deserving of vengeance, right? And he's tracked down as a criminal. And in actuality, Glass had come back, started to recover, forgiven Bridger, and then just wanted his rifle back. He was mad enough to go to the army fort and demand to see Fitzgerald and even threaten to take him out. But the officer in charge talked him down and was like, and I know that's a bad idea. It's just going to cause you more problems, and talked him out of it. He forgave Fitzgerald. So ultimately, it's a story of forgiveness. It's a story of, like I said, grace and turning the other cheek, and a really good example, because the guy really went through hell and forgave. But in this story, it becomes a story of vengeance. And you can see here the captain's flipping out on Bridger. He's kicking him. He's slapping him. He was probably very upset, but he didn't really like physically abuse him and point a gun at him. That's pretty ballin' to like do that and then say like, say the Lord's Prayer. It's a good scene. It's a good scene. They were very upset, but there's no recounts or there's no accounts of physical violence on Bridger. But he's all freaked out. Definitely. He's a 15-year-old kid and he's like, oh crap, my bad, you know. But everyone's kind of looking at Glass like he's a ghost. He's basically, he is a ghost to them. He's supposed to be a dead man. And they're all kind of, it's not this warm reception. They're all kind of staring at him like he's from another world, which is something. Yeah, how do you expect the people who thought you were dead to deal with it? You know. So we're back to the fort now, showing the outside, and now we're inside, and Glass is finally getting some medical care, which is basically bear grease. It worked better than you would think it did. It has some antiseptic or antibiotic properties, and it would keep insects and grime and stuff out. So they would put bear grease in there, like the Frontier Neosporin. Full grizzled bear on Fitzgerald. Amen. Excuse me. Let's see here. Henry and Glass are talking back and forth. So he's going like, well, what really happened? And Glass is like, well, what do you think really happened? He says, listen, Bridger's telling the truth, right? Fitzgerald lied to Bridger. Fitzgerald was just a kid doing what he was told to do. So like, maybe don't beat on him and point guns at him anymore. You got to chill out a little bit. He's like, you're more upset than I am, and I'm the guy that got left behind. But Henry is incensed that Fitzgerald would do this. And now they're building this kind of rage in Glass. And they do a good job of portraying all of his wounds. His lips are chapped. His eyes are sunken. His wounds are just barely starting to heal. And that's how he would have showed up at the fort. But now he's kind of got this full action hero bent that he's going to go get revenge. And it portrays his journey as driven by revenge. It's really the guy just wanted to stay alive. But this shows the point of the movie is that he came all the way back and crawled all this way to get revenge. Really, he just like mostly wanted his gun back. Oh, and he's saying like, all I had was my boy and they took my boy from me. And it's like, well, good news for you, buddy. They didn't. And Henry's saying like, listen, dude, I can't let this happen. You can't go back out there. You're going to start a bunch of mess. You're going to get yourself killed. And he says, I ain't afraid to die anymore. I done it already. I already died. And Henry is like, that's kind of my point. Why do it again? Also, we have lives to live, you know. We put a considerable amount of time into finding you and healing you up. We kind of got to move on. But Glass isn't having it. Nope, I want Fitzgerald. He's like Apollo Creed when he's pointing at Drago in Rocky IV. He's like, I want you, Chump. I want you. And it didn't work out well for Apollo, right? All right, back to the mountains and back to this little bunkhouse. So this is true. The guys slept in bunks. One guy got top, one guy got bottom. Nice little fireplace. It's smoky in virtually every room in the 19th century. It's like Northern California, everywhere you go. Smoky rooms. All right, Glass is outside, taking a bath, dumping some hot water on his head. Now he's, instead of wheezing, he's sighing now. So that's a good sign. That's progress. And now things are like, they're kind of letting things cool down for a bit. You can see the characters around Glass are kind of cooling down, chilling out. Their body language is just like a little bit more contained. And Glass is building in his rage. You can see his body language is getting stiffer, getting more angry. Now he's trying to track Fitzgerald. And he's just like, shows him as like a man obsessed, right? He's not even fully healed. And his only driving force now is he's going to finish what he started. And it seems like one odd thing, he's got like buffalo hide everything. Like everything he has on his horse is wrapped in buffalo robes. That's a lot of buffalo robes for one guy. Oops, I gotta plug the computer in. We've been on here so long, we lost power. All right, problem solved. And this whole time, he's kind of like pissing and moaning about the wife he lost and the son he lost, and like he didn't really lose any of them. You know what I mean? It's hard to like sympathize that much with fake complaints, fictional complaints. Great hat though. It's got this like weasel hat on. Looks like he could be like in Leonard Skinner or something. Okay, now he's just going on, and it's like he gets a little like myopic from here on out. He's like, I want to kill the man that killed my son. It's like, also, this movie's been made. You know what I mean? I'm looking for the man that shot my son. It's like, okay, that's a bit of a trope, isn't it? Let me know what you think in the chat too. Did you guys like this movie? Am I just talking it down too hard? Any Revenant fans here? I'm a big fan of the hats in this movie. Great hats. But again, they're just tracking away. And you can see Henry's like kind of exhausted by this. He's just like, I don't even want to be tracking this guy anymore. Can you just let this go? It's snowy, it's cold. And now they're on a trail that could be the Arikara or it could be Fitzgerald. They're just horse tracks. He doesn't know. And he tells Henry, like, okay, we're going this way. And if it's the Arikara, just turn back and run away. And Henry's just like, yeah, great plan, man. Great plan. Like, we definitely should just keep doing this. No chill. No chill at all. So he's riding along through the forest. Yeah, I guess I just never realized how little dialogue there is in this movie. There's way more grunting than there are words. Good point. It's obvious when the writing gets lazy. Yeah, it just seems like they're just trying to finish this like an action movie, and it's just they're jamming a lot in here. You could have really at least simplified this fake plot. But he's tracking him down. And now he hears the voice of his deceased wife in his head. And again, it's just like, okay, well, if you really are hearing that, then you're in no condition to be hauling a gun around. Like, just take a couple deep breaths and head back and like hang out, have some cider. You know what I mean? We don't have to get our revenge today, at least. But Henry's riding along, checking the area behind him. Now Fitzgerald pops out from behind a rock and he's like, you need to stop. You need to turn around and just mind your business. So he's telling, and then Henry is telling Fitzgerald that they need to go back to Fort Kiowa, which wasn't the actual fort they were at, but it sounds like a good name. There was a Fort Kiowa, but that's not where they were. Now you hear a gunshot. Glass is like, the hell was that? He's looking around, and it's like, well, what do you think it was, man? There's only so many guns in the area. All right, he's riding back. He's riding out of the tree line now. He's looking around. What happened here? Back to a big landscape shot. Which is, again, okay, now they're really shoving these landscape shots down our throat, I feel like. They look great, but there's enough of them. All right. He pulls the rifle off. You guys hear my neighbor with the motorcycle? He's an absolute pleasure to deal with. Okay. Glass is now coming up upon the deceased and scalped body of Henry. This absolutely did not happen, especially while Fitzgerald was in the army. Fitzgerald's in the army already. He's just doing his job at the fort. Happy as a clam. Nobody's messing with him now. So he looks back. There's a big avalanche. Again, lots of symbols. I don't know what they mean, but I'm cool with them. But this means Fitzgerald is somewhere in the area. Glass knows that Fitzgerald, the evil Fitzgerald, must have done this. And instead of looking around for him, he's just kind of like zonked out and staring at the avalanche. So I feel like for a guy that's survived 400 miles, he would have way better survival instincts than to like stand in an open field and watch an avalanche. Okay, no, he has time to he gets on his horse and gets Henry's horse, puts the body of Henry over his horse, and he's just hauling him back to the fort. An unfortunate incident that definitely could have been avoided if he wasn't on such a psycho revenge rampage. But again, luckily, none of this ever happened. Luckily, he's got his canteen back too. It's like his what do you call that? What are the Stanley mugs? It's like his 19th century Stanley mug. He was super pissed he lost it, super happy he's got it back. Maybe he's like taking the stock again. He's like, you know what? We've already lost Henry. I got my Stanley Cup back. Maybe I need to just chill out. Maybe things aren't so bad. We don't need to make the bad situation worse. But no, now he's hacking at a tree. What is this guy doing? You know what I mean? It's just like this whole movie has been bad decisions. Get off the boat. Let me go hunt for some elk. Let me go hunt for some bear. You know what I mean? Am I wrong on that? All right. So now I don't really even understand why he hacked that tree up. I don't know why he did that. And now he's riding again, hauling Henry's body back to the fort. And he just like kind of looks bummed out. It's like, okay, man, well, maybe stop doing crazy stuff. Boom, that's a shot from the woods. And it's the evil Fitzgerald. They're like presenting him as like Snidely Whiplash in this. He's just like over the top evil. And has that over the top villainous hubris, right? Where he's like, well, now I've slain the good guy and I'm going to walk up on him and check my work. But he's he's pointing the gun at him while he walks up and checks. Oh, what happened here? Oh, that's why Glass hacked the log up, because he put the log behind the back of Henry, who has been propped up and looking like he was riding his horse. But in fact, he's not. That's a ruse. Boom, Glass pops up from the horse what Henry was on and takes a shot. So we've turned him into Arnold in Predator, basically. He's Jason Bourne now, even though he could barely move like an hour ago. Yeah, that's why he chopped up the tree limb. Pretty clever. Never happened again, but hey, we're this far in, right? Like, screw it. Let's give him teleportation powers at this point. I say that, but like I said, it's an okay movie. Okay, now Glass is chasing Fitzgerald down through the snow. It's like watching an O lineman chase down a running back. You're just like, you're never going to catch this guy. On a fumble, right? You get a fumble. He's chasing down a DB, let's say. I don't want to hear about my football terminology. It's late at night. I know the difference. All right, let's see. Now he's back in another stream. This guy's got constant wet boots. If he sees a stream, he's like compelled to walk in it. You ever seen a conspiracy theory with Mel Gibson where he like compulsively buys Catcher in the Rye? It's like that, but with walking in streams. Remember the one made in the 70s? Was there a Revenant made in the 70s? Because it's based off the book, right? That was in the 90s or early 2000s. So now, instead of chilling at the fort and just minding his business and getting his rifle back, Glass is stalking through the woods again. He has a terrible track record stalking through the woods. This never works out for him. They called him Bass. Is that the movie name? The Truth 1862. You said there's one made in the 70s called They Called Him Bass. That's a movie name? All right. Glass is back to stalking through the woods. A shot is fired off. Glances off the tree by his head. And Fitzgerald is running away like an Ewok through the woods. Like, who runs like that? Now, Glass is chasing him down with a tomahawk. He is just like totally obsessed with revenge. And this whole ending, this whole thing, I feel like is just dragged out and it just taints the whole movie. Like this not only didn't happen, it just changes the whole tenor of the story. Now we're back to showing Fitzgerald. He's got his cap off now. He's exhausted. Feels like he knows he's kind of coming to an end himself, and his scalped head is showing. And then we've got Glass with all his wounds. So we're kind of seeing two guys on the absolute brink, and now they're walking. And Fitzgerald's exhausted and kind of just resigned. And Glass is walking after him because it's all he can do. So a super creepy scene. It's kind of like Friday the 13th, where it's like the guy just, or Halloween, where Michael Myers just walks everywhere. And so Fitzgerald, at least in the movie, does the one thing you probably shouldn't do. If you're the guy who offed the guy's son, you probably shouldn't like start recounting that event when the guy has tracked you down and has a hatchet in his hand. So Fitzgerald just going like, yeah, I had a grand old time. You got to do what you got to do. And Glass is just like, bro, you are not cool. And we're going to settle up right now. And they're calling each other names. It's very like 21st century trash talk for an 18th century movie, but the fingers get chopped off. I mean, it's a good fight. It's not like it's a bad fight. It's just like this didn't happen. So it kind of misportrays the character, but whatever. Let's have a good time with the fight here. All right. Fingers are missing from from Fitzgerald. All right. Now Fitzgerald has pulled a knife that he did not pull before. Interesting tactic. He cuts Hugh Glass on the cheek. And they're just kind of like bashing into each other. This is probably not terribly dissimilar to how it happened in real life, like how actual fights like this happen in real life. Oh, wow. Fitzgerald with some killer boots, man. Fringe boots. Let me know if you know what reference that line is from. What movie is that line from? Killer boots, man. Now we're back to the knife fight. You guys kind of both suck at this, right? One of you had a hatchet, one of you had a knife. You're both going to lose your weapons. Now we're resorting to biting. Absolutely uncouth. Oh, now we're getting control of the knife. Like, gentlemen, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? We got the Arikara out there looking for us, and we're going to fight amongst ourselves. Oh, we're getting close. We're getting close. Oh, he stabs Fitzgerald. Again, I feel like they're stealing this scene from the Saving Private Ryan scene where the guy gets in a knife fight in the dark building. Oh, we're still going almost to an arm bar there. And for all this drama, the captions just say panting. Oh, good shot from Fitzgerald. I think Hugh Glass stabbed himself in the hand? This guy, I mean, if I was Glass, wouldn't you be a little pissed? You're just like, I'm not this crappy at knife fighting. I'm not this dumb. Oh, stabs him in the calf. This is a brutal fight. I forgot how brutal this was. As cinematic fights go, pretty good. Oh, another brutal one. Uh-oh. And they're both just looking at each other like, who's going to finish it here? Oh, Fitzgerald in a bad position. And he says, you come all this way just for revenge, huh? Glass and Fitzgerald should be an HOKC fight night. Absolutely. That one's coming for sure because it didn't really happen. So we're going to do it ourselves. I think it'll be better than this one. We won't have knives and hatchets. But these guys have just kind of flailed around for a good 5 minutes. And in a real fight, everybody knows you don't like sit there and talk to each other. Except for Khabib Connor when Khabib was yelling at his corner. All right, the Arikara now are coming back. And they say, oh, we know that you're we're super mad at you guys and we want to attack you anytime we see you. But I guess since we see two of you killing each other, we'll let this go. Come on. Fight's still going. Fight's still going. I'm going to throw him in the river. Like, come on, dog. We had this big fight so you could throw him in the river. We're gonna outsource this to the Arikara. And I think they're gonna re-scalp him, which is like, what's there to scalp? You know what I mean? It's like if you mowed the lawn yesterday and I'm just gonna go out and mow it again, there's nothing to mow. Okay, now the Arikara look at Glass like, yo, you're kind of our boy. Thanks for that. How about since you gave us this one, we'll let you go. And they're just kind of looking at each other for a minute, still just looking. There's a lot of people just staring at each other. Now the Arikara are coming across the creek. Fitzgerald, he's checked out now. Glass is just breathing real heavy and just kind of staring. Did the casting for the movie just say like lots of staring and panting? And then DiCaprio is just like, yo, I can do that. Oh my goodness. Look at the lettuce, boys. Okay, there we go. And yeah, so now the Arikara are like, you know what? Because you did that, we think you're pretty cool. Oh, and he saved the Arikara girl. So it was an Arikara girl who was with the French trappers. He saved her. So now they're like, you know, bro, all that trapping and incursion, it's cool. It's cool now. We're even. And even this is super misleading because it's like the whole point of Glass's life was that they were not cool because they ended up killing him a couple of years later. So it's like this is just it leaves the impression that Glass, you know, made good with the Arikara, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And now we're back to the river, and we're seeing Fitzgerald just kind of on a macabre waterworks ride of sorts. We pan out. There's a big blood patch in the snow. Another nature shot. Got to tell you at this point, guys, kind of tired of the nature shots. I'm glad it gives us a chance to check in, but kind of tired of them. It's like we're just going nature shot, slowly zoom in on our character. And maybe that's how you're supposed to do it. I don't know, but I've been talking about the movie for 2.5 hours, and it's like, guys, you've kind of made this repetitive here. From The Truth, 1862, the 70s movie was called The Man in the Wilderness. Richard Harris plays Hugh Bass, right? But they changed his name for the movie. The guy that played Dumbledore. Richard Harris won a Grammy for MacArthur Park also. Fantastic version. Fantastic song. Okay, now he's hallucinating again, and he's seeing his Pawnee wife. He's going, hey, good to see you again. He's crying a little bit, and she's like, all right, bro, I gotta go. And she starts walking away. I don't even think she likes him because every time she appears, she walks away. I'm sure in real life she liked him fine and they were a wonderful, lovely couple. But here she's just like, hi, gotta go. And now he's really cold and he's shaking and he's crying. And it's like, listen, man, it would have been better if you stayed in the fort. Now he looks right at the camera, a little creepy. I wish he would stop doing this. And we fade out. Okay, so we stopped. All right, that is The Revenant, I think. Is that the end of it? Let's make sure. I'm waiting for the credits to roll. A lot of like this, it's like they got a lot of time between shots here. All right, that is The Revenant by Alejandro G. Inarritu. Serviceable job, Alejandro. Serviceable. What did you guys think? We're at the end. Give me a 1. Give me a W in the chat if you thought it was a good movie. For W for win, L for loss. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Fade to black, exactly. So thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. We've got a lot of people in here. Really appreciate it. You got a W. I think that's fair. I think overall it's a W. Question mark. That's also fair. Having gone through it, I'm getting away from the W side, but I'm with you. W from Pet Detectives. I agree with you guys. It's a W. It's a W. And it's easy, like Roosevelt said, right? Like it's easy to sit in the crowd. Teddy Roosevelt, the one I like. But easy to sit in the crowd and criticize the man in the arena. But the man in the arena is the guy who should get the credit. And it's like, well, the man in the arena in this case is Alejandro G. Inarritu. So good work overall. Any other comments on the movie? I thought like this is a good one to start with because there are plenty of bones I have to pick with it. And it was a movie I was so excited to see for a solid year. Like when I first heard about it, I was like, man, this is going to be so cool. And I had a delivery job at the time. I drove all over Austin. So I listened to a Life Wild and Perilous by, how am I forgetting his name now? But if you look the book up, A Life Wild and Perilous, a great starting point for mountain man history. And I had been listening to that while I drove all day and was kind of knew this story to begin with and was obsessed with mountain men. So I thought like, this is going to be a really cool story. Like I said, the first time I watched it, I walked away thinking it was pretty cool. The more times I watch it, I'm maybe more and more disillusioned by it, but a cool movie to watch. Several really cool scenes, fantastic cinematography, great acting job. I think again, Tom Hardy carries the movie. And, I think even being cast as a villain, it's a good counterbalance. And I think he does just a great job of, they cast him as a villain, but I'm like, if you watch it through the lens of anybody who's ever been through a long week and just like wants to get his paycheck and go home, and people keep like crashing the company truck or whatever all day, and he has to stay till like 8 o'clock on a Friday, nobody's happy with that. So that's my thoughts on it. Pretty good movie. Wonderful time streaming with you guys. Again, we'll come back and do this. Like I said, email me any suggestions, historyattheokcorral@gmail.com. And trying to think if there's anything else we need to cover. Got an episode coming up this week, one on the Seminole Scouts, one that's going to be kind of a surprise. We may even have a third this week. And then we'll also have a number of live streams. I think the coolest one this week is the next edition of History Fighting Championships. I'm going to let you guys know because it depends on when the editing for the next episode gets finished. But I will let everyone know in a post tomorrow when the next History Fighting Championship is going to be, what the lineup is. Really looking forward to that. That's a really good time. I had a fun time with that. Gone with the Wind, Armenian Bishop suggests. That's a good idea. I've never seen that movie all the way through. So I'll take a look and I'm going to put that on the list, Armenian Bishop. See, anything else you need to cover? Just stay tuned. We got a lot of stuff that we're adding to the channel, adding a lot of stuff to memberships. So there's going to be some free episode or an additional episode under the memberships channel, or by getting a membership, you'll get a free episode I think we're looking at one a month, but a really good episode be $2 a month or something. So we'll have that coming up. We'll also have like members only live streams and a free copy of the book that we're going to be putting out. We're going to be putting out an ebook pretty shortly here. It's going to be really cool. It's a lot of stuff this way. There we go. A lot of stuff that I'm not able to put on YouTube. Some of the more gory details and some of the more intense, violent stories that YouTube just isn't going to have. So we're putting them in a book instead. So that'll be coming out here in the next month or two. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing. I don't think so, but it's been a wonderful time hanging out with you guys. Again, thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. Hope you've had a wonderful Sunday. Hope this was fun for everybody. And we'll be back this week. So stay tuned. And thank you all again for hanging out. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.